Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along. Which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ziprecruiter.com/zip. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ziprecruiter.com/zip. That's ziprecruiter.com/zip. ziprecruiter.com/zip.
How many roads must a man walk down before you call him a man? How many seas must the white dove sail before she sleeps in the sand? Yes, and how many times must the cannonballs fly before they're forever banned? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. The answer is blowing in the wind.
You know, I enjoy the harmonica an awful lot. I'm reminded as I listen to Bob Dylan and Blowin' in the Wind to start our show for this Tuesday morning, the 7th of July, just thinking of the harmonica and how it's emphasized, at least for that moment in that song. Reminder to you that our all request theme for this Friday. No, not the harmonica, but the saxophone. We were talking about it yesterday with Brian Allison, who joins us weekly Monday mornings at 11 a.m. for This Week in Music History. And the sax riff that makes up a key part of the song Baker Street by Jerry Rafferty. And I thought, yeah, you know what? We might be onto something there. So we spontaneously, on the spot yesterday, decided that saxophone riffs will be our theme for this week's All Request Friday. So drop me an email, mike@570news.com, or give us a call at any point throughout the show. Phone lines are now open. The minute we start every day, you can reach us at 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. You can engage in conversation with us every day. It is the most interactive radio program anywhere in this region, and make your request for All Request Friday as well. Songs with a sax. That is your theme for this week. Speaking of the song that started the show, though, I got a little bit of a twofer for you here this morning. Not only was it a song that on this day in 2022 was a re-recorded re-release that sold at auction for a record £1.48 million, which translates to about $1.78 million. A one-of-a-kind re-recording of the 1963 classic Blowin' in the Wind, selling for almost $2 million on this day in 2022. And of course, it is a classic from the poet Bob Dylan. Here is something else. It was on this day in 2015 that climate scientists from 5 leading universities found that 163 of Bob Dylan's 542 songs reference the climate. That's almost a third of Dylan's song catalog. And that makes him the musician most likely to mention the weather in his lyrics. Now, I might be the talk show host that mentions the weather the most because it's one of my favorite things to complain about. But here's the question for you. If Bob Dylan is the musical artist that references the weather the most often in his songs, who is the artist that mentions the weather the second most? I'll give you a clue. They have a 308-song collection of songs they wrote. So it's a band, not an individual. Weather gets mentioned 48 times in the 308 songs written by this band. What band makes the second most references to the weather? Bob Dylan is number one. Who is number two? I will give you the answer before 9:30. Or if you think you're a smarty pants when it comes to your music, let me know. Bob Dylan mentions the weather the most. This band mentions the weather the second most in 48 of their 308 songs. We'll go to the phones because Doug made the call early this morning. He's already with us. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Mike. So, how's the voice box?
The voice box, everything is tickety-boo, my friend. Thank you for asking.
I kind of wondered after I watched that video. My goodness. They had you lined up with every sauce known to man, I think.
I will share a little bit more about that coming up. Yes, it was the Hot Ones Challenge yesterday as I made up for what I promised I would do if our Farwell for Hire 50-50 jackpot reached $150,000, which it did.
That was a big wow. I got a real quick reference for you if you're looking for songs. Be Considered Baby by Elvis. In the middle of that song, there is a saxophone riff by Boots Randolph that, to me, is unequal. So if you can find that one, you should play it because it's wild.
All right, Doug, sounds very good. I appreciate hearing from you as always. Doug spends a lot of his time on the road, and he's usually on his way out of our region in and around this time. And you know Doug's working. He's a working man, as the great band Rush would have once sang. Doug is a working man, and he likes to check in as he's heading into areas where he might not be able to hear us anymore, gets out of range. And the one thing we still need to do for Doug, like Doug's wife's name is Patty. I know Doug outside of the radio station. Patty, get your boy a Bluetooth or something. Like Doug, I love you. That phone quality is not my favorite. But anyway, I do love hearing from you. I just wish we could hear you a little bit better when you give us a call. I think I have shared with you my obsession with the step counter. I mean, I don't use anything fancy. I don't have like an Apple Watch or any of those other things that are maybe higher tech, but the step counter that is on my phone, I have been for some time rather obsessed with getting the 10,000 steps a day, and quite frankly, frustrated with how difficult it is to get those 10,000 steps. I'm like, how do you do it? If you do accomplish that goal of 10,000 steps a day, how do you do it? I'm mostly sedentary at work. I'm sure that doesn't help, but I'm sure others are also largely sitting down while working and still find a way to get those 10,000 steps in. I find it a challenge, and I've been trying to do this really since pandemic days when I rediscovered my love, quite frankly, of walking. There wasn't much else to do. I would walk a lot, and I really enjoy it. So the only thing that kind of bores me about it is there are only so many places you can go if you're going on foot, right? You try to get your 10,000 steps, there are only so many routes that'll take you the 10,000. Anyway, I started monitoring steps a lot more closely several years ago and have fallen short every year on averaging 10,000 steps a day. It drives me absolutely batty, but yeah, I couldn't do it. So when I was in Kelowna for the Memorial Cup, I walked exclusively. I think I used the shuttle from the arena back to my hotel twice. Other than that, it was walking down to the arena, walking back from the arena. It was about a 5.5 kilometer walk. It was along a trail in Kelowna, beautiful, quiet, got a little bit of nature around you, lots of things to like about it. And I got well over an average of 10,000 steps per day, which is great because as you think about it, at this point in the year, more than halfway through, if you're averaging more than 10,000 steps per day, if you fall a little bit below, those 10,000 steps on any given day, the overall average still stays above 10,000. But I'll tell you what, I didn't walk as much in June as you might think doing Farwell for Hire. I was in a lot of places, but I wasn't doing a lot of moving, maybe getting to them from time to time. But Anyway, I fell below the average. And so I've been trying this week now that Farwell for Hire is behind us. I'm just determined to get that average back up over 10,000 per day. And I'm just shy of that now. But the last couple of days, it was more than 20,000 steps on Sunday, more than 18,000 steps yesterday. And I'm creeping up to just below 10,000 steps per day on average. Yesterday, though, I took the opportunity to walk the Iron Horse Trail to Victoria Park. And much like I noticed when I was in Kelowna, being on that trail, it was so well used. And I found myself asking, like, where is this in our community? Are we just not as active? Are the trails not as well used? It was nice to see how well used the Iron Horse Trail was yesterday. Although I would submit to you, not nearly as well used as that trail I was walking on the daily in Kelowna. Is it because it was Monday afternoon? I don't know. We're into summer holidays, and when I was in Kelowna, it was late May, and it was still weekday afternoons often that I was walking, and the trail was far better used. Maybe it was the section that I was on, but I kind of treated myself, the section that I was on, the Iron Horse yesterday, not as well used as maybe some other sections. But I tried to be a tourist in my own town and recognize the amenities that we do have here that sometimes I think we overlook. And it was nice to see it being as well used as it was. And when I got to Victoria Park, another thing struck me, and that is the exercise equipment. It's a Kitchener Rangers fitness area of Victoria Park now. I don't know if you've seen and or used it. It's over near the main play area, not far from the washrooms that are there. But it's really nicely laid out. The stuff is in good shape, the equipment. And I had read recently that a lot of people in these tougher economic times are turning to outdoor gyms like that for their fitness because having a gym membership is expensive, and maybe it's a luxury these days. And there it was. I mean, you could do like a sort of elliptical there. You could do a bench press there. Look, I'm a middle-aged tubby guy. I was already sweating enough just walking to Victoria Park. I wasn't about to stop and crank out some reps, but it's nice stuff that's on offer. And I remember it was installed many years ago. It's still in very good shape. So it was kind of fun just to be a bit of a tourist in my own town yesterday and try to pay attention intentionally to that which we are offered by way of trails, parks, the amenities within the parks themselves. The kids were obviously on such a nice day out enjoying the splash pad area at Victoria Park. That was nice. I'm glad that we have these things, and we should take advantage of them. Maybe even that fitness equipment that nobody was using when I went by. Save yourself that gym membership. Let's go back to the phones here. Mark is with us this morning. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm okay. You're talking about walking, and last June I took up a hobby. My hobby is I want to walk every street in Kitchener-Waterloo.
Have you and I talked about this before?
No.
Okay. I remember somebody doing something similar. So you pledged to walk every street in Kitchener and Waterloo?
Yes. At this point, after basically 1 year, but I took the winter off, I'm over 50% done.
No kidding.
Since January 1st, I've walked over 1 million steps.
Shut the front door. That's pretty cool. So now, okay, back me up here. If you're walking every street, do you drive to a neighborhood and then walk through certain streets in that neighborhood?
I do. I look at the map and I Google Map and I plan my route and I even write down directions on a piece of paper so I know when I should be turning. And so, but I've walked all of King Street from 401 all the way to St. Jacobs and Weaver Street and every street in between and lots of other streets in the area.
When you get to a court or a crescent, do you walk around it?
I do.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very impressive. I love it. So you're 50% done every street in Kitchener and Waterloo. Do you have a goal for when you finish this little feat of yours?
No, I don't have a goal, but last winter was pretty brutal.
Good,
so
fair
I
point.
walk in November, December, January, and February. So maybe this year it won't be so bad. I can do some walking in the winter time, but 8 months, I'm over halfway done.
Attaboy. Really impressive. Keep me up to date on this, okay? Drop me the occasional email or call anytime. I'd love to keep hearing about your progress.
Yes. And I'm often impressed because I have 2 replaced knees and also need a surgery on my foot because of gout.
So what you're telling me, Mark, is if you can do it, I've got no excuse.
Well, you also work, and I'm retired.
I dream of that someday. You mean it can really happen, eh? There's hope for retirement someday, do you think?
I hope so. I do have a part-time job. I work 15 hours a week or so, But
you get to be a little bit choosier, eh? You pick, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend 15 hours at it, and the rest of the time, I'm going to walk every ding-dang street in Kitchener and Waterloo.
Yes, I just completed one area. So if you actually start at the Grand River and Freeport, walk all the way up to Columbia to Bridge to the Grand River, I've walked every street in that area.
Incredible stuff. Well done. Do you have a favorite area that's really, maybe you learned about, or you're like, this is a really nice area to walk?
Downtown Kitchener, because that's where I live. But at the new subdivisions, I'm going out to new subdivisions, and they have not wastewater, but rainwater areas and you have to walk around those there. So they're quite a lot of walking around those things.
Very good. Well, Mark, good luck on the rest of your pursuit. I appreciate you calling in today, and please do keep me up to date, okay?
Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Good to hear from you. How about that? He's decided that he's going to walk every street in Kitchener and Waterloo. Look, I'm halfway through the year, so roughly 180 days, averaging just under 10,000 steps a day. That is 1.8 million steps so far this year in 6 months. I have not yet had the knee replacements, though. And maybe someday I'll have to get them done. But I just find it's tough to get 10,000 on average every day. But I'm going to keep trying, and I'm going to keep exploring those trails that we have. The Iron Horse, the Spur Line. I'll get out into the Huron Natural area a bit if I can, and some others. If you've got recos, I'm always interested in them. I did promise to get to what Doug was mentioning about the Hot Ones challenge from yesterday on the show, but I'm running myself up against the clock here. So we'll do our Farwell Show 5 and then come back with the update or the recap of what happened yesterday. Get to Dan's call as well.
1, 2.
But let's get to that Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning, the 7th of July. Number 1, Waterloo Region has the highest downtown office vacancy rate in the country. The latest numbers from commercial real estate firm CBRE show a 30% office vacancy rate in our core areas, well above the national average of 17.8%, and twice as high as the rates in Toronto, Vancouver, and Halifax. Number 2, 6 people from Kitchener have been charged in connection to a $20 million cocaine bust. The investigation started after Canada Border Services Agency officers intercepted a shipment from Panama believed to contain a large quantity of cocaine. The Border Patrol then contacted York Regional Police, who linked the shipment to a suspect with ties to Kitchener. In total, police seized 260 kilograms of cocaine with an estimated street value of $20 million, along with millions of dollars in cash. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, Waterloo Regional Police have charged the driver involved in a fatal collision in Kitchener. It happened June 27th at the intersection of Victoria and Frederick Streets, where a 62-year-old woman was struck and later pronounced dead in hospital. Police have charged a 41-year-old Kitchener man with careless driving causing death, turn not in safety, and being a novice driver with blood alcohol concentration above 0. The man will appear in court in September. Number 4, Renata Ford, the wife of late Toronto Mayor Rob Ford, has died. Ontario Premier Doug Ford announcing the news in a statement last night. Renata was a sister-in-law to the Premier. She was also the mother of 2 children. Renata ran as a candidate for the People's Party of Canada in the 2019 federal election. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning. Yesterday, we told you about Waterloo's Hannah Blair headed to the Commonwealth Games in Scotland to compete for Canada in the heptathlon. And she's not the only local athlete headed to Glasgow. John Bazir of Kitchener will also be there competing in the lawn bowls portion of the Commonwealth Games. Now, Bazir has won bronze medals at World Championships in 2012 and 2023, and he'll team up with world champion Ryan Bester of Hanover in the pairs event. Bazir is a member of the Heritage Greens Lawn Bowling Club in Kitchener.
A Monday warrior, mean stride. Today's Tom Sawyer, mean pride.
Can I have 2 liters of pop? Can I have 2 liters of pop? Well, what's more healthy, 4 beers or 2 liters of Coca-Cola? Do the math.
What's more healthy, swimming or not swimming? Can I find a place to swim? We'll talk about that on the show just after 10:30 this morning. But that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning, the 7th of July. Your morning wake-up call is coming up. Dan is on the line. We'll get to his call and more on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I appreciate the requests you're already sending in for All Request Friday. Just please remember, it helps me if I have your name to attach to said request. I simply have an email that says a good song featuring a saxophone is returned to sender by Elvis Presley. Not wrong. And I'd love to play it on Friday. I still could. I'll just call it requested by Anonymous. But if you just add your name, it helps out with the email a little bit. It is the time of the morning we give you your wake-up call. Dan is on the phone with us. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Mike Farrell. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Good. I was listening to you talking about harmonicas and saxophones, and I was lucky enough to be down in Huatuco, Mexico, when a Canadian saxophone player by the name of Anthony Rinaldi was playing with an old harmonica player and harmonica producer, Lee Oscar. And they were actually practicing in the facility or the compound where I was staying, and I got to jam with them because I'm a blues harmonica player myself.
Get out of town. That's fantastic.
Yeah, Lee Oscar was actually kind enough to give me an engraved harmonica after that was over.
How did you pick up the harmonica? I absolutely love the sound.
To be honest with you, I was watching a war movie, and there was a fellow on the deck of a destroyer playing Shenandoah on the deck. And I picked up a harmonica and taught myself, and I've been a blues harp player and ballad player for years now.
Love that inspiration. It's so funny you mention that because I've been watching old episodes of the original Magnum P.I. My beloved bought them for me on DVD forever ago, and I was watching last night, and Magnum was watching an old war movie, and what was happening? Somebody was playing the harmonica, Dan.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I also do a thing called Smule, which is a karaoke app on my phone, and I do Bob Dylan, and I got to be honest with you, he has got to be one of the worst harmonica players that ever recorded a harmonica.
Duly noted, my friend. I'll take you over Dylan any day. Thanks for calling this morning.
You're very welcome. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. Absolutely love it. Okay, so now we're very close to a 9:30 update in the 570 News Center. I had a rant all set to go because I'm a little ticked off about our thinking or lack of forward planning at times. And I wanted to share with you a little bit of a recap of what happened with the Hot Ones Challenge yesterday, but I'm not going to have time before the news update. And that's okay with me, just so you know. I feel bad about not getting to what I promised you I would get to, but we'll get to it during the show. So my encouragement to you is just stick around. There's lots of time left for us to share all kinds of stories, and I love the phone calls and the interactions that we have about random things like step counts and playing the harmonica, walking every street in Kitchener and Waterloo. That is great stuff all around. I did start the show with Bob Dylan today, and I told you that about 1/3 of his songs reference the weather in their lyrics, making Bob Dylan the musician that sings about the weather the most often. Who sings about the weather the second most often? That would be the Beatles. 48 of their 308 songs mention the weather. So now you know. Dylan and the Beatles referenced the weather the most often. This is the first Tuesday of the month, which usually means we have Regional Police Chief Mark Crowell in studio with us for Ask the Chief, but we have a scheduling conflict today. The chief can't make it. He's in Montreal at an officer's funeral. So we will have the chief on next Tuesday on the show. Today, between 11 and 12, you're going to meet the handsome homeless man and a young woman who has followed all of the immigration rules and still may be on her way out of the country thanks to those immigration changes. So that's coming up on the show in a little bit. But right after this update from the 570 News Center, let's talk about a potential wind farm in Wellesley. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
It has really good wind resource in the area. It has minimum 7 meter per second wind speed. It's really, really close to transmission infrastructure that has capacity on it. The land configuration is well suited for construction and operation, as well as conversation with staff suggests that there is an opportunity to advance wind energy development in the community. Projects like these ensure that we are meeting a lot of the provincial regulations, ensuring that we are following the provincial noise regulation by following the right setback rules, so that we're ensuring that it's not close to housing and residents, and we're ensuring that we're putting the safety of the residents at high priority.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
That is Anita Ilfaidi, a development manager with Renewable Energy Systems Canada, or RES, at a presentation to Wellesley Township Council last week, where, as you heard in that clip, Anita Ilfaidi described why the township of Wellesley is perhaps optimally suited for wind turbines and a wind energy project. Joe Nowak, of course, is the mayor of Wellesley Township and joins us to talk more about it. Mayor Nowak, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. You're hearing me okay as well?
I am.
Excellent. We're off to a good start then. And you heard from RES Canada at your meeting last week about the township's suitability for a wind energy project. What do you think about what you heard?
Well, it's obvious that there are some excellent areas within the township. I'm thinking the first spot that I thought was Hackbar Road. I mean, if you went up to Hackbar Road and got to the very top, you could see the entire township. So there's some very high grounds within the township that I'm assuming would be ideal for what they're looking for. It's very early. The stages are very early. I think their next move would be to reach out to some of the landowners to see if there's any interest with the landowners. Eventually, we will have to. The township will have to do a municipal support resolution. I think they need that before they can go to the IESO for the final submission. So it's very early in the stages. I've received some feedback from some of the residents about a 50-50 split. There are those that don't want to see this the wind farms, and those that are quite thrilled by it, actually.
You mentioned it being early stages, and obviously RES would have a business case. This is good for them, so to speak, the work that would go into this. Landowners can, of course, make some money on allowing their land to be used for these turbines. But yes, often when these sorts of projects are proposed, there is some pushback in the community. From those that you've heard from, Mayor Nowak, who are opposed, on what grounds are they suggesting opposition?
Well, the one in particular stood out for me was the fact that the Bruce facility is planning some major upgrades and expansions, and the question is, do we really need this extra energy? And it's they're suggesting that the demand for energy is going to grow by about 65%, I think, by 2050. So those are the types of things that we're going to have to consider. I think also there's environmental issues with it. There's also habitat, bird habitat. I think I don't know if they've managed to deal with those things and some new technology, but I understand that that they can do some damage to the environment. So those are the types of things that I think we have to be concerned about.
This presentation came to Council just last week, so I know that Council would have received a report in advance, but really it's a couple of weeks that even Council has known about it, and I'm sure since that meeting last week, it's the first that the community is even beginning to hear about it. If they weren't watching the Council meeting, perhaps they even missed the news. So where do we go from here? Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, they're going to reach out to landowners to see if there's some willing participants. Then they have to do some community consultation with the Indigenous groups. They'll do some preliminary design work, some turbine layout and refinement, environmental studies, and archaeological studies and geotech studies. That all has to be done, and that'll probably be a good year and a half in the making. At that point, they'll be coming back to Council and asking for a municipal support resolution, which would have to be given to the independent electricity system operator. I think they require that from the township. From there, assuming, if it passes through our Council, and that's a non-binding resolution, it doesn't bind the township into any agreement. But from there, they would do some, assuming that it did pass that threshold, they'd be doing some detailed engineering, environmental assessment, permitting approvals, energy resource response planning. There's probably permitting and approvals would probably take another year at least, and I think it'd be at least 4 years before you would actually see the construction happening. So, according to their records, that's what they presented to Council. Based on what you know in these early stages, Mayor Nowak, is this something that you could see yourself giving approval to? And if not, what would it take for you to give your blessing to a project like this? Well, there has to be some more considerable amount of discussion yet. When they talk about the benefits, they talk about increased property tax revenue in the millions in annual payments for the township. They're talking about 250 new construction jobs, maybe 10 permanent. It's interesting that they would actually have 10 permanent jobs within the community. There's opportunities with Indigenous partnership, ownership, First Nations, direct financial returns to municipal ownership. So all these things have to be looked at very closely. I think I wouldn't be in a position at this point to make any forward commitments. You did mention that from residents you have heard from in these early stages, it's about a 50-50 split, and I don't think that's a very surprising thing. Sometimes when projects of this nature are brought forward, there can be pushback or opposition from the community. Yeah. How much public consultation would you like to see as part of this process? Well, I think they made the first step. And really the only it's only been in the Kitchener Record. It was in the Kitchener Record, I think, last week. There hasn't been that much. I think they're going to have to reach out to the community. I think the first thing they're going to have to do is find, agreeable landowners. Once they've find them and decide exactly where some of these installations can be, I think that would start the conversation over again. I think people have to know exactly where these are going to be and what the benefit to the community is. So there has to be some considerable discussion within the community for sure. Mayor Nowak, I appreciate you making time for our show this morning. Thank you very much for being here. Okay, you take care, Mike. You too. Bye-bye. Bye. Joe Nowak is the mayor of Wellesley Township. It is early stages, to be sure, which is one of the things I love about doing a show like this, because you know what's at least proposed. And let's make no mistake, Renewable Energy Systems has a business case. They are a business. And so there is a business case to be made and or revenue to be generated by building this wind farm, erecting these wind turbines in Wellesley Township. Again, going back to why I love a show like this, even in the early stages, we can have the conversation about what we think of the idea. So I'll ask you now, this is very preliminary, but when you hear about the idea of a wind farm or wind turbines being erected across Wellesley Township, what do you think of the idea? Mayor Nowak makes reference to expansion at Bruce. And, you know, if you've been up that way, and I know many of you have, because it's a very popular spot for folks from here to go for cottaging, recreation, retirement, etc. But along with Bruce Power, which, if I'm not mistaken, or did we just refer to it as Bruce Nuclear? I think initially it was Bruce Nuclear. We've kind of softened that to Bruce Power because I think nuclear has some negative connotations at times. But nonetheless, the expansion is being proposed to Bruce Power. And we just had last week Canada announce a nuclear strategy to meet the energy needs, the increasing energy needs of this province, of this country. It sounds as though nuclear will be a key player in all of that. Forgive me for not knowing enough about how much of those energy demands can be met by wind power alone, but along with the nuclear up at Bruce, if you've been up that way, you see the massive wind farms. And I got to say, we were up, I think I mentioned to you yesterday, we were up in Collingwood on the weekend with some friends who have a recreational property there and had a nice little getaway. And I was blown away on our drive home at the wind farms that we were passing in Grey County. I had no idea they were so extensive and expansive there, but they certainly were. I know this for sure. The landowners who sign on and allow for these turbines to be erected on their land do pretty well financially for this. I think it works out to some sort of lease arrangement where it's basically passive income that just continues to generate from your land if, of course, I suppose you can spare it. But there is that argument to be made for the people who own the land where the wind turbines are erected. I remember years ago on this show having a conversation with a resident somewhere in Bruce County. Forgive me, I can't remember exactly where, but living near enough to one of those big wind turbines that she complained of the negative impacts on her health. There's a constant whirring and swooshing sound that she outlined numerous ill effects from. You heard in the clip that we played from Renewable Energy Systems that they are checking the boxes provincially for setbacks from homes. So I don't know if those setbacks have changed or if that woman we spoke to on the show all those years ago was living far enough away in the province's eyes from that wind turbine, but still feeling those ill effects. There are always going to be folks who push back against these things. There will absolutely be an economic argument made here. I've seen them in the Bruce. I saw them just this past weekend in Grey County, these massive wind farms. I haven't made the connection between what is generated there and how much it supports our energy needs, but we know it's a renewable source of energy. It's a clean source of energy. And Wellesley Township, in the years ahead, because we are very early stages here, could be another place where we see wind turbines going up and a new wind farm for this province. Early stages, but what is your initial response to the idea? Is Wellesley Township a good spot for a wind farm? Let me know your thoughts. We'll take calls right after this on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
The Bruce facility is planning some major upgrades and expansions, and the question is, do we really need this extra energy. And they're suggesting that the demand for energy is going to grow by about 65%, I think, by 2050. So those are the types of things that we're going to have to consider. I think also there's environmental issues with it.
That is Joe Nowak, who is the mayor of Wellesley Township. And the township last week listened to a presentation from Renewable Energy Systems Canada, or RES. And that company, RES Canada, has identified Wellesley Township as an ideal location for a wind energy project. How about a wind farm? How about some wind turbines being erected in Wellesley Township? What do you think of the idea? 519-570-2545. Star 570, 1-800-570-5715. If I were to sum up what I heard from council last week, along, again, with the business case that's being presented by Renewable Energy Systems, because they can make money doing this, but the response was, I would say, tepid and cautious. I think council wants to move cautiously forward. Nobody was ready to say immediately, yes, this is great, let's do it. There will be public consultation to follow and lots of regulatory boxes still to be checked. But before all of that happens, we get to have the conversation on the show about what we think of the idea of a wind farm for Wellesley Township. Let's go to the phones. Mary is with us. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Mike. I'm very impressed with your hot winds.
Oh, thank you. I wasn't so impressed with them as I was hurt by them, Mary.
No. I don't like spicy. But anyway, on the wind farm, I don't know if they ever take them down when they're stopped. That I do not know. But why aren't we thinking more solar, which I think makes, it's nicer for the landscape. And anyway, the wind damages birds, and are there health issues with it? Like we could look at, I think, rather, solar panels. And they're easy to take down if you don't need them. So what do you think, Mike?
Well, Mary, I think you raise an interesting point. Again, I don't have the depth of knowledge. Maybe I've got some light reading to do this coming weekend to learn more about wind versus solar and what better supports these increasing demands for energy that we are absolutely facing. Again, I'll reference that nuclear strategy that Canada, and well, it was the federal minister and our provincial minister announcing about a week ago. So Ontario and Ottawa jointly talking about a future nuclear strategy. You heard in the clip we just played from Mayor Joe Nowak in Wellesley Township about the expansion at the Bruce, which we are all very well aware of. And if you've ever been up there, if you've gone up there for as long as I've been going up there to the Bruce, we've long had we used to have a family cottage up there. So we were going to Bruce County and Port Elgin specifically for many, many years. And the explosion, and it really is an explosion of growth compared to when I was a kid to what it looks like now. And that's all being driven by Bruce Power, because not only is it a going concern that employs people, but from far and wide, these jobs have been created, these developments have gone up, housing has been built, towns are much bigger and busier than they used to be, et cetera, et cetera. So there's lots of work on that side of energy. Where solar fits in vis-a-vis wind energy, I'm not sure. Your point about being easier to remove, sure. Once a wind turbine goes up, I don't know that it ever comes down. Dave is also with us on the phones. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning.
What do you think of a wind farm in Wellesley?
Well, I live in Wellesley, and I don't want a wind turbine in my backyard.
Why not?
Well, it's ugly. If it's so great, why don't you put it in your backyard?
Listen, Dave, I get it, and it is the classic case, right? If you don't like that encampment on the public street corner, why don't you have it in your backyard and see how you like it there, for example? Totally get it. Obviously, in an urban setting, it's not going to work as much as, even if I wanted one, I couldn't put one in my backyard. That's why a township like Wellesley and its rural areas, Hackbart Road was something that Mayor Nowak mentioned, where you can go up and overlook the entire township. So obviously, that's why a company like RES comes to Wellesley and says, you are the ideal location, given the topography, this, that, the other thing. These boxes are checked in our business case. But Dave's reaction right there is a common reaction when projects like this are proposed. I don't like the look of it. I don't want it in my backyard. And you're perfectly within your rights to say so. How this eventually fits into our overall energy grid remains to be seen. But I'll just remind you again that we are in early stages here, and you will, as a resident of Wellesley, I'm sure, have your chance to have your say as the proposal moves forward. But just letting you know that the proposal has been made and council has taken it in. They're taking a cautious approach. Nobody is saying yes immediately in Wellesley. An update from the 570 News Center is coming up. And then, why is the region of Waterloo investigating itself when it comes to complaints about well interference? We'll talk about that next on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We have just begun the 7th month of the year, and in these 6 months and 7 days of 2026, our regional government has conducted 17 investigations into claims of municipal interference in private wells. And following those 17 investigations, the region has determined that not one issue within those private wells was a result of municipal pumping. To put it in simpler terms, it's like somebody standing up and saying, I have conducted a thorough investigation into my own actions, and I have determined that my own actions were all above board. This strikes me as a wee bit odd. There has also not been, as you would, I think, deduct from the 17 investigations carried out, where no issues were determined to be a result of municipal pumping. So the region has not made any compensation for well interference so far this year. And it has not drilled any new wells for residents who had issued those complaints. The part that strikes me as most odd, though, as I said at the outset, is the fact that the region is investigating itself in this regard. Bob Williams is a professor emeritus of political science from the University of Waterloo and an expert in municipal matters, joins us to talk about it. Bob, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
Does this strike you as good practice, the regional government investigating itself?
No, it certainly does not. There may be some places where that could happen, but not with these kinds of public complaints and the number of them, no. It certainly leaves me with an uneasy feeling about the whole process.
It strikes me as something that should easily and could easily be contracted to a third party. What might the better way be forward here for the region?
Well, a third party in some form, I think, would be helpful. I know there'll be responses to do with costs if it were allocated, let's say, to a private consulting company of some sort, but there might be other ways to deal with that, where some organization that is not the region of Waterloo is reviewing all of these allegations without an enormous cost.
What would those scenarios be, Bob, under which this sort of thing would make sense? You alluded to that when in your first response, that there are some cases where this might make sense.
Yeah, I'm not an expert in the water field in terms of what we're talking about, but other municipalities run water systems. Why could there not be some sort of reciprocal or some kind of maybe contractual arrangement with another municipality that operates water systems to come in and just review what these allegations are and what practices are followed and those kinds of things? It doesn't need to be enormously expensive, and who knows, maybe the relationship could be such that this is a kind of a quid pro quo, one municipality helping another, Waterloo helping somebody else, and, you know, not necessarily to and fro with the two parties, but some kind of way to share this expertise among the municipalities that are involved in water supply.
I wonder if this may be something that's, you know, an archaic or antiquated law of some sort, because, you know, certainly in the modern day, when we talk about transparency, this sort of thing flies in the face of that, doesn't it?
Yes. There's been a lot of effort over the last couple of decades or so to bring more transparency to various other parts of municipal and governmental activities in general. It is a bit surprising that there is nothing in place to deal with service delivery, which I'll use that generic label, by one municipality in whatever form it is. And so service delivery doesn't seem to be an area that has had any attention.
Would it take much, Bob, to make a legislative change municipally to simply change the way that they're doing this?
I'll take my tongue out of my cheek and say, well, bringing the legislature back would be a help. But I think there would need to be some, and again, this is a gap we're finding, some consultation with organizations like AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, or some other umbrella organization, maybe through the Ministry of the Environment or whatever it's called nowadays, some place where there's expertise, but making sure that the practices are consistent with the way the municipalities themselves operate across the board, and come up with a formula, a plan, an agreement that people are willing to sign on to, willing to sign on to. They'd probably be mandated to sign on to it, but it's got to be something you're really willing to do. And I think that's not a short-term solution in the sense that it could be wrapped up, by September, but getting something going to find a process, I think is a good place to start.
Your tongue-in-cheek duly noted, Bob, because obviously the legislature provincially is on an extended summer break not long after its extended winter one, but we'll leave that aside. What you remind me of course, is that municipalities, as we've so often said, are creatures of the province. The municipalities are like the children, the province is like the parent, and maybe this just goes to show the number of regulations and laws that are on the books that could do with some tweaking at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Mike. I think there are a number of areas. The areas that I'm working in are nothing to do with service delivery, but there are huge gaps in the way the area I deal with has been left to slide. I'll call it that. No real attempt to bring things up to date, and I think that's certainly an important part of it. Part of the problem for me, and it's a broader issue, is the lack of consultation. The decisions are being put on to the municipalities that are, in a sense, a surprise. This should not be. This should be something that we need to know what the problems are and whether this idea I had has any feasibility. There's probably better ones out there, but let's talk about what are we trying to resolve here. Is it simply another pair of eyes looking at a problem? Is it someone looking over your shoulder, which is slightly different? What is the best way to get around problems of this kind when there are serious accusations made about the way particular services are managed, are delivered, are operational? Those kinds of things are not something that I think one person has the solution to, but requires some careful discussion by a number of points of view to come to a workable solution.
And just to emphasize the suggestion you're making here, Bob, that would be other municipalities manage water systems. Why couldn't it be, instead of a third-party contractor, for example, leaning on the expertise from another neighboring municipality, perhaps, to oversee what's happening here?
Yeah, that could be a very simplistic solution and I say simplistic because I don't know the nuances. The one thing you don't want to do is get get, if you will, not one party apparently sort of sliding over it, but a pair of them who don't want to, create difficulties with one another. So, neighboring areas, whether it's Brant or Wellington or some of the other regions, you could do that, but then you create a relationship, and you don't want to necessarily put it in the hands of somebody who's going to be compliant, if I can put it that way. But you don't want to create tensions and difficulties between municipalities or the professionals within them. So it's not, my solution, if I will, a moment ago, was fairly simplistic, but there are things to at least consider. It may work, but just saying it's going to work is probably not enough.
Always appreciate your insights, Bob. Thanks very much for making time for the show.
All right. Happy to talk, Mike.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bob Williams is a professor emeritus in the Department of Political Science from the University of Waterloo. Again, just by way of recap, 17 investigations carried out so far this year into complaints of well interference in the region. And it has been determined that not a single issue was a result of municipal pumping. The problem is those investigations, so the municipal pumping, that's the complaint, right? Your pumping, dear municipality, your pumping is negatively impacting my private well, my private water supply. And then the municipality says, okay, we'll investigate that ourselves. And then that investigation determines that no compensation is necessary, no new wells will be drilled for residents of Wilmot Township, and everything is just fine according to the region, which again is investigating itself. This is a problem. Let's be clear about that. Let me also share with you something that I know for certain in this regard. I promise you that this is the case. These investigations are evidence-based investigations. The data has been thoroughly examined in this regard. I promise you that. I know that for certain. The challenge again becomes, though, who holds the data? Who is the gatekeeper here? Well, that would be the region. So to say that this needs to be changed is an understatement. It's far too simplistic. Of course it should be changed. You cannot investigate complaints into your own work. It's as simple as that. It's very similar to complaints that we've heard before about the Special Investigations Unit in Ontario, the SIU, because that is a body that is called in to investigate any deaths or injury that happen as a result of police activity. But the SIU, the province's police watchdog, as we call it, is made up of former members of the policing profession. So the argument has long been, or the complaint or criticism has long been, that it's police investigating police. However, I would remind you in that case, it's actually similar to the model that Bob Williams just suggested for these water complaints. It's not Waterloo Regional Police investigating Waterloo Regional Police, right? It may be police, and that's where you could argue in favor of such a body. Who better to investigate what goes on during a police investigation than people with experience in police investigations? That's exactly what Bob Williams is saying here when it comes to water. There are other municipalities who are doing this work themselves. Why couldn't they oversee it? That would be a low-cost solution. We could go independent, arm's length, third party. Fine, likely to cost us more. But the bottom line is you can't investigate yourself. I think that we should all be able to agree on that. And I would hope that the region recognizes this is a problem. It may be a problem of provincial legislation, so let's undo that legislation. Let's find the efficiencies that Ontario Premier Doug Ford is always looking for, and let's have the conversation about how we make this process far more transparent, because that's absolutely what it needs to be. Again, using the SIU as an example, yes, it may well be policing experts investigating police activity, but it's not the police service that's involved in the investigation doing the investigation, right? If something is being investigated after police activity here in Waterloo Region by Waterloo Regional Police officers, the Waterloo Regional Police Service is not involved in the investigation. The region is investigating itself as far as these complaints are concerned. And that is, again, not to put too fine a point on it, but absolutely a problem. I know for sure the region is relying on data and evidence in its investigations. I respect that. But again, the gatekeeper of that data is the region itself. You know what they say about figures, right? Figures never lie and liars never figure. Something like that. This is a process that needs to change. While we're on the subject, though, of what needs to change and the region investigating itself in this regard and the need for greater transparency, I personally am very encouraged by what's happening today at the region. Our morning reporter, Josh Piercy, is, as we speak, out at a media conference that the region is holding at a water facility in Waterloo. And it sounds to me, I'm very hopeful that this is actually a media conference where all members of the local media are present, listening to whatever news the region is delivering and being allowed to ask questions. I'm going to mark this down as one of our Farwell's Force wins here on the show, because we've been harping on this for a long time, better part of a year on the show. The region, for whatever reason, had begun to host media conferences individually with different media outlets. So reporters on their own get invited to this presentation and they take what the region gives them. Not only is it inefficient, I would love to know the business model that suggests somebody's got enough time in their day, or they're going to take an entire day to give this presentation multiple times, but it takes away the dynamic of allowing questions to be asked in real time and, quite frankly, allowing less seasoned journalists to learn from more seasoned journalists about the kinds of questions that can be asked, and then everybody benefits. It's far more transparent to hold a media conference where all media is invited, not only to listen to the information being presented, but to ask questions afterwards. The region had gone away from that. My hope is that the media conference that our reporter is at today is also being attended by the Waterloo Region Record and CTV Kitchener and CBC KW and anybody else in the media who wants to be there. That's the way things should go. That's transparency. And if the region is moving in that direction, that is reverting, because that's the way it always was. And don't get me started on, well, things should never change. In this case, that was the right way to do it. We should always do it the right way. I think the region is getting back to doing it the right way, and that's a good sign. As they made it clear in a report coming to Regional Council tomorrow that our water situation has been stabilized. Good news all around. The water situation is stabilized. We've got water for 5,000 new homes, and there's a media conference being held where all media can attend and ask questions. Bada bing, bada boom, baby. Farwell's Force for good. Making stuff happen. Now all we got to do is stop the region from investigating itself when it comes to water complaints. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, would you look at the time? You know what they say, right? Time flies when you're having fun. And we're getting awfully close to that 10:30 update in the 570 News Center. But you know what we do not long before that 10:30 update in the 570 News Center, right?
Not everyone's a jackwagon. Not every heart is cold. Not every promise made to you is gonna turn to gold and fold. Some people mean it when they say they care. Some folks will show up, actually be there. So don't close the door on every soul you meet. Not everyone's a jackwagon on this street.
And today we thank Sarah Hubble of Cambridge for not being a jackwagon. Just over a year ago, Sarah founded a running club. It's called the River Rats Run Club, and she founded it with intention. It was to be a running group that was inclusive and not intimidating. The pace that you run at does not matter. Your experience level does not matter. All that matters is that you show up and join the River Rats Run Club. It was supposed to be a supportive place where mothers could connect through movement. That was the idea a little over a year ago. Now today, more than 300 members make up the River Rats Run Club, and there are over 1,300 social media followers as the club has gained a reputation for fostering belonging, encouragement, and genuine community within the broader community of Cambridge. And thanks to Sarah Hubbell's efforts, she has been recognized as an unsung hero with the Community Builders Awards from Cambridge Today. Good job by you, Sarah Hubbell. Good job by you, River Rats Run Club, for reminding us that not everyone is a jackwagon. If you know someone like Sarah and want to make us aware of them, drop me an email anytime, mike@570news.com. We're going to get you to the 570 News Center for that update. Before 11, we will go back to what happened yesterday in the final hour of the show. The Hot Ones Challenge was taken on. You can decide how successfully it was accomplished, plus a bonus surprise that came in yesterday as well, connected to that Hot Ones Challenge and the Farwell for Hire fundraiser, all on the way before 11. And right after this update from the 570 News Center, looking for a place to swim. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just enjoying a bit of an off-air conversation with our next guest who joins me in studio, because we're going to talk about something that I'm quite passionate about. And I was just explaining to Andrew Moss, who's the general manager of the Region of Waterloo Swim Club, where I came about my understanding of swimming and the swimming lessons I took as a kid. Andrew, it's nice to have you here. Thanks for stopping in.
Thanks for the invitation, Mike.
GM of the Region of Waterloo Swim Club, but newly minted. You're like 6 weeks into the role.
Indeed. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey to come back into community sport. I was, I grew up in a community swim club down in Kingston, and worked my way all the way through to becoming, a swimming instructor, lifeguard, coach, and then worked my way all the way up to working with Olympic athletes. Worked at a provincial swimming office, worked at the national swimming office, and then took some time away as my 3 girls grew up, and they were all swimmers as well. And so now it's full circle back to sort of where I started at a community level here in Kitchener-Waterloo.
I love it. And I also love the city of Kingston, one of my favorite visits every year when we travel with the Kitchener Rangers. And is it almost necessary there? Great open water to cut your teeth as a swimmer.
Well, that's an interesting point, because, my involvement in swimming and competitive swimming came about because my parents, when they were in their 20s, had like a little 17-foot cottage sailboat, and they enjoyed going out after work or on the weekends. And when I came along, it was important that I learn how to swim so I could be safe to come on the boat with them. And little did they know at the time, but that was the impetus for a whole career based in aquatics. And so when we talk about facilities and the need for capacity, it's not everybody's going to be a summer Macintosh, and we're not trying to propose that that's why we need more facilities. It's really about making sure there's enough aquatic capacity in this growing region to let every kid pursue their dreams and learn how to swim, and adults to learn how to swim, because a lot of adults put their kids in swimming because they weren't a strong swimmer or they were afraid of the water. So we don't want that to happen. So this is an interesting time, but my journey is, pretty informative of why we need to do this, because you never know where it's going to lead.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Andrew, when it comes to facilities, because it's kind of been an undercurrent of a theme on the show for the last little while, I think we're lacking bluntly in this region. I recognize there are big problems to solve and other priorities for local governments to look at, but I think we're missing the forest for the trees here in this regard. So let's focus on your area of expertise and the region of Waterloo Swim Club. How would you describe the state of available facilities today?
Well, it's a little bit perilous right now because, we're operating out of pretty old facilities. I will say that the university at Laurier and Waterloo and the City of Kitchener public pools, like the staff have done everything they possibly can to allow us to maintain access. But those are facilities that were built a long time ago and have a lifespan that's coming to an end. And so this is as much a planning exercise right now that, these facilities, when they're built, it's like maybe they have a 50-year life or whatever. You have to start thinking about what the replacement is going to be before the end comes. And so we're getting close to the point where the end is coming for some of our facilities. And we really need to be thinking about what's an innovative way that we can build new facilities within the priorities of what's going on in our community. So I acknowledge full well that swimming and aquatics complexes might not be the top of mind for local politicians, but the reality is our community needs access to these kinds of facilities, and we just need to figure out how we can get them built quickly and economically and get all the right partners to the table to do that.
Why does our community need access to facilities like that? What are the benefits that you would see coming from that?
Sure. Well, one is to just make sure that we have the ability to make sure all of our local residents have access to a recreation sport like swimming, which is safe, which provides water safety for everybody. It's also a great fitness activity and a great activity for families. But there's also economic benefits of building these kinds of facilities if you build the right kind of facilities, because you're going to attract the sport tourism world to our city, which is a significant amount of money every year. Like I see the amount of money that our club spends going to other communities for their meets. And, it's in the, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars just from one club. And we could be attracting that money to come to our community and stay in our hotels and our restaurants and, benefit our community. So there's the economic benefit, and then there's the benefit to the broader community to make sure that everybody has access to the kinds of aquatic facilities that we need when the current facilities start going offline. And like I said, that might be in single-digit number of years for some of our main facilities.
That economic argument is a relevant one and a topical one. I'll put the bug in the ear of anyone listening because we have made a point of trying to attract sport tourism. We've got the Ontario Summer Games coming up here again this summer, starting at the end of this month, and there have been other initiatives. I know there is an interest in that. So just a note to the regional officials who may be tuning in today, this is another great opportunity for us. The challenge I've often seen, Andrew, is bluntly how long it takes us to get things done. I'll point to the famed multiplex in Cambridge that was talked about and some of the kids that could have been served more than a decade ago when this was first discussed might now have children of their own. If they were teens or tweens at that time, they might have already gone into parenthood because it's taken so ding-dang long, and we're still about a year from opening. Have you seen examples elsewhere that might be learning, teachable moments for us?
Certainly. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about the opportunity we have right now. Down the highway just north of Toronto, the city of Uxbridge undertook a plan a couple of years ago to replace their existing facility. And they sourced a company that's actually got a Canadian presence, and both on the building of the building and then the actual pool itself, that has allowed them to go from shovel hitting the ground to opening in 1 year. With an 8-lane, 25-meter pool plus a multi-court sports facility with weights and fitness and all of that, at about 40% of what the brick and mortar cost would have been of a traditional build. And so what happened there was they got all of the groups municipally together, including the user groups, but also the municipal groups, to think about what's the most innovative way we could get this built. in a timeline that actually addresses the need and obviously uses the taxpayer dollars economically. And they've gone with this facility, which is sort of a different structural facility, but it's completely weather resistant for our climate. And the company that built that also has facilities in Idaho and all across the U.S. that, have stood the test of the weather. So there are solutions out there. I think the bigger issue right now is we've got to get all the players to the table, which in this region, it's complicated, as you know. You have multiple municipalities. You've got a couple of big universities, a college. You've got user groups. We need to all be sitting at the same table to think about what do we need to get built and what are the different ways that we could build that kind of facility together. Because there are also dollars on the table at the provincial level and the federal level for facility development, especially when it comes around facilities that will attract sport tourism and sport events to our country. So there's a lot of opportunity. The one event that's also on the calendar down the road is the Commonwealth Games, which is coming to Ontario, I think it's 2030. So you might have traditionally thought, well, we've missed the boat on that. But the reality is you could actually get a facility built by 2030 if you got the right people around the table today to start thinking about it. So I think there's a lot of exciting opportunity, even though the situation we're in right now is a bit of a challenging one. It's just a mindset to how we're going to go about building something new for this region.
We've acknowledged that there are obviously competing priorities here. And I remember not too long ago, Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe kind of blue skying about a pool of this stature, but it's well down the road. We just saw Kitchener, and it's a great facility with RBJ Schlegel Park and everything it offers. The multiplex we've referenced in Cambridge is also going to be terrific, but it's still lacking the kind of pool, the kind of swimming aquatic facility that you're envisioning or thinking about for the region of Waterloo Swim Club. And I wonder, is it just we haven't been talking about it enough? I'm thinking specific to swimming. We talk about track. We talk about hockey an awful lot, et cetera. We've got cricket pitches in many places now. Why can't we get the traction on aquatics?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of traditional thinking around what the cost and the timelines are to build a proper aquatics complex, the kind that not just for our swim club, but for all the user groups in this region that would benefit from. I don't know why it's such a hard sell, to be honest. I think the cost is perceived to be so significant that that's almost sort of a non-starter once you get to that. Look, I run around the city every day and I see the challenges that we face, but this is really, for me, how do you build a community that both is a destination for people to want to move here and live here because of the facilities we have, but also one that we can attract outside dollars to come in and spend their money with us. I think the political will can be there if we show them a model that costs less, has a shorter timeline, and addresses all the relevant issues. But I think it's really important that the different partners are at that table, the universities, both of the municipalities, and Cambridge as well. And we're talking about this as a collective region where everybody's going to benefit from the solution, not one city having to take the risk all on their own, right? And I think that's one of the challenges we uniquely have here is that there are a lot of different people involved and a lot of different municipal leaders involved that on their own, this might feel like too big a risk, but I think collectively, I think it's something we can get done.
Even absent the facilities currently, Andrew, how's our region of Waterloo Swim Club doing? Is there another summer Macintosh waiting in the wings, the water wings here?
We definitely think there is, and I think actually it's a really interesting point is this community, despite the challenges with facilities that we're facing, as an aquatics community with a couple of swim clubs, lots of other aquatic groups, it is a thriving aquatics community in the Kitchener-Waterloo region. Both of the swim clubs are basically full for the capacity and the pool time they have access to, and ready to grow larger. The Cowan pool, when it comes online, will have no trouble filling all the space that they're going to have. So we have a very strong aquatics community in this region. And as much as we would like to see that grow, we would love to see the next summer Macintosh come out of this region. The history of aquatics in the Kitchener-Waterloo region is phenomenal. It's actually one of the reasons I I was drawn to come for the job here is the legacy of the history of the Row Swim Club and the Victor Davises and Mike Wests and, Jen Fratese and Laura Nichols, and I can go on and on. But, that time now to get that next cohort to come through, it requires a different kind of access to facilities and different kind of training than it did at that time. And so we're hopeful that something can come up as a solution for us, but we want to be part of a solution that's a broader solution for the whole community.
I hope the message is landing today, some receptive ears perhaps, and a seed has been planted. Love the work you do. Big believer in what we do need here and we currently lack. So thanks for joining us and making the case for it, Andrew.
Thanks for the opportunity, Mike.
Andrew Moss is the general manager of the Region of Waterloo Swim Club. He joins us this morning on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Not everybody's going to be a summer Macintosh, and we're not trying to propose that that's why we need more facilities. It's really about making sure there's enough aquatic capacity in this growing region to let every kid pursue their dreams and learn how to swim, and adults to learn how to swim, because a lot of adults put their kids in swimming because they weren't a strong swimmer or they were afraid of the water. So we don't want that to happen.
Frankly, I don't think it's just the lack of aquatics facilities either. That's Andrew Moss, general manager of the Region of Waterloo Swim Club, and an excellent advocate for more of those aquatics facilities. As I mentioned during the conversation with Andrew, this has kind of been a theme running under the show for the last little while, because I feel strongly about this. What we lack when it comes to recreational amenities in this community. And again, I fully acknowledge the challenges that we have, the priorities that exist, but we've been overlooking athletic facilities for far too long, and now we are way, and I do mean way behind. Who will have the political courage to step up and get us started on closing this gap? Because it is a gap right now, and I think we are shortchanging our kids. Let's go to the phones, hear from you on this. John, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm looking forward to a conversation with you on this aquatics facility.
Happy to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. The Property Taxpayers Alliance has been looking at what the next 5 to 6 years of property taxes will have to be in the region in order to fund all of the projects that are being proposed. And not that I'm against an aquatic facility or we have any position against any particular initiative, but would it not be appropriate for the Waterloo region, regional government, to put forward some kind of an indicator for people in the region to take a look at and see what their property taxes will have to be over the next 5, 6, 7 years in order to fund all of these initiatives or the financing costs or the capital for them, including the aquatics facilities, so that we get a big picture view, and then we can say, hey, what's the most important thing for us? What's in, what's out? Because right now we keep looking at all these initiatives individually, and then we don't get a big picture view of what's the implication totally. Do you know what I'm saying?
John, I hear you, and I'm glad you brought it up. You're absolutely right, and you and I have chatted before, and we share similar views on municipal tax dollars, municipal tax increases, and what I would say to you is I will bet you I can find 6 or 7 priorities that the government has identified that I would disagree with or place these athletics facilities in front of.
I agree with you, Mike. I think we should put that list before the taxpayers and let them decide with their regional representatives what the priorities should be and what they're willing to fork out in tax dollars over the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years to fund these initiatives. But at the end of the day, if we don't have that information and we keep picking these items from out of the blue here, we're going to look at this, look at that. Well, we've got the hospital in Elmira. We've got the Cambridge Capital Facility upgrades. We've got possibly the LRT coming and some of the capital implications there, and on and on and on. And, we've got to put some priorities in place, don't we, Mike?
We certainly do, John. Really appreciate you calling in today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Good to hear from you, as always. Couldn't agree more. And let me just take it a step further, if I may. When it comes to facilities, the likes of which Andrew Moss and I just talked about. So let's focus on aquatics because he built a great case for it. We can talk about track and field, right? We can talk about arenas and whatnot, cricket pitches, baseball diamonds, etc. There is a long-term benefit to facilities like this because if we have a more active community, then we have a healthier community that is not going to be entering the, as I like to call it, sick care system as early in life. For example, think about the socialization, the social benefits that come with being off a screen and out in the fresh air. Let's talk about mental health, which we talk about an awful lot, and the challenges that exist around our mental health and how facilities like this and our participation in them benefits our mental health. There are so many long-term benefits that we are willfully ignoring because we are prioritizing other things above these opportunities for ourselves and for our kids. And I'm a big believer in this. I understand that there will be others who disagree, but to John's point, can we see the list? Can we talk about, as a community, what our priorities are and what the financial implications of those priorities are? I'm here for that conversation. Who wants to lead it? We're trying to get the ball rolling here on the show. I have also run up against the clock again, so I'm going to fail in my pledge to you to revisit yesterday's Hot Ones challenge, but I always want to make sure you have a chance to have your voice heard, so I will not apologize for that part, but we'll get to it before 11:30. How's that? Because it happened yesterday between noon and 1. You don't need to hear it again then. We'll get to it before 11:30, along with the bonus surprise that came for Farwell for Hire yesterday as we revisit the Hot Ones challenge from yesterday afternoon. We'll do that before 11:30. And a reminder that even though this is the first Tuesday of the month, our regularly scheduled Ask the Chief segment with Regional Police Chief Mark Crowell had to be rescheduled because of conflict in the Chief's schedule. So we're going to have the Chief on next week, which means the next hour is open for our conversations, along with revisiting the Hot Ones challenge. After this update from the 570 News Center, I'm going to introduce you to the handsome homeless man. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. All right, I'm going to try this live on the fly this morning. I don't know if it's going to work, but my fingers are crossed. If I fail, please forgive me, but let's find out how lucky I am today.
Thanks for watching. Handsome Homeless. How's it going, guys? Was having a rough day today. Wasn't feeling the love. People weren't in very good mood until someone brought me some new clothes. New pair of shorts, a new shirt, and a Tim Hortons card. Made my day. Make sure you love everyone all the time because you never know when you're going to need that love back. That guy was awesome. Hope everybody has a great day today. Thanks for watching.
That is the handsome homeless man. I hope that worked. I think it worked. It sounded like we could hear Greg Cronier, who on Instagram and found by a friend of mine on TikTok goes by the handsome homeless, sharing his experiences as a homeless person in Kitchener. And we have Greg on the phone with us this morning. Handsome homeless, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
How you doing today, Greg?
Oh, I'm doing quite well, actually. Just had my coffee and I've been waiting to talk to you about this homeless crisis that we're facing today.
We certainly are facing a crisis, and I appreciate you making time to do this on the show today. A friend of mine brought this to my attention about a week ago. I've been following along and paying some attention myself ever since. Why did you choose this approach, Greg? Why did you decide to take your experiences as somebody dealing with homelessness to social media?
There's a couple of reasons I actually chose to create the Handsome Homeless. First, I just wanted to show the general public the daily challenges that us homeless encounter on our daily in our daily lives. As it actually seems that most of the society chooses to ignore the homeless crisis entirely. So, and the second reason, of course, was to try to turn my negative situation into a positive one, meaning by gathering positive feedback and support from the public to get through my daily events.
You talk about those daily events. The video that we just played showed you, again, reflecting on something positive. Somebody had brought you some new clothes, a Tim Hortons gift card. I mean, things like that really go a long way. Another recent video showed you finding a hole you had to patch in your tent, and you got that sorted out. But what's a day in the life like right now, Greg?
It's quite, there are challenges, of course, like just accessing electricity or water supplies. It's definitely challenging, but there are a lot of resources in the community that do help in the regions. So basically, we do have a lot of challenges, but we do have a lot of resources to find food and have showers and laundry. So that does definitely help a lot.
You started the social media activity a couple weeks ago now, I guess. What were you doing prior to that?
Prior, I was actually renting a room, so I wasn't homeless. So I only been homeless roughly about a month at this time. But I was on Ontario Works and whatnot, and then I ended up losing my room. And just basically, someone had down at Tim Hortons actually just essentially got me interested in creating these videos for the public. And ever since then, about 2 weeks ago, I've been creating them and just trying to show everybody how it is out there.
What's the experience? What's the response been like to your social media activity?
A lot of positivity. However, not everybody is positive, of course. You do get the negative comments. So one of my videos, you could tell that I was a little bit down after reviewing some of these comments and backlash. However, I try to keep positive in everyday situations, and I'm trying not to let it bother me, and I'm pressing forward.
Can I ask, Greg, how you ended up in the situation that you're in? You mentioned being on Ontario Works, and if my internet research is any indication, it seems like you might have at one point been doing some roofing as work, but how did you end up where you are today?
But from a series of poor decision-making, of course. Yes, I did work in the roofing industry for several years, actually. I ran my successful company, and it all seemed to fall apart due to substance abuse. And since I've become homeless, I've actually been sober and cleaning myself up and looking forward to a more positive future.
How did you get sober?
I have these anti-craving medication that I got from the hospital, and that has helped a lot. But just mainly willpower and strength and positivity got me through it.
So in your experience, Greg, what would you say is missing here? You talked about places you can get some food, places you can get a shower, but we're in this homelessness crisis, and you want us to understand better what it's like. What are we lacking that has led to so many people in a situation like yours?
I believe counseling services would be a little way beneficial for the homeless. A lot of them are enduring substance abuse and mental health issues, and they're not readily available. And as well as rehabilitation. I wanted to get into the rehab in January, and it was a 2-month wait. And when you're at that point, it needs to be an immediate decision, and an immediate basically result. You don't want to have to wait 2 months. You'll just end up relapsing. So there's a lot of services that are needed to be caught up in this system.
What was it like for you initially when you lost your room? You mentioned that earlier, and you didn't have another place to go. Like, where did you go that first night? How long did it take you to get a tent? What was all that like?
Yeah, so I reached out to the Threshold Crisis Center. So they give you a 5-day stay so you can gather your thoughts and create a plan of where you can go and what you can do after you leave there. So as I left, I went directly to that location. And then I created a plan. I thought I'd buy a tent and whatnot and get everything prepared. And now I'm actually going to be touring through Montreal to document that homelessness crisis, as well as off to Halifax this summer.
Really? What leads you in that direction?
Yeah, so I just thought I created just a plan as I'm already homeless. I'd like to document more homelessness and show the crisis to the public. So I decided may as well go on the road and try to bring this to people's attention.
What is the homeless community like, Greg? Because obviously you're in contact with other folks who are in similar situations. How close-knit are you all, or not at all close-knit?
We're actually a quite close-knit community, per se. A lot of us communicate daily with each other and share our daily struggles, and a lot of us support each other. Homeless people are some of the nicest people you'll meet. They'll give you $2 if they have it, even though they're poor and starving. And I find them a lot nicer than some of the rich folk, per se, like that just walk right by you, can't even say good morning to you or hello. It's just very disrespectful. But the homeless community is very positive.
How difficult was it for you to find a place initially to set up your tent? Because I know they come with some controversy.
Absolutely. It's very difficult. I'm always on the move. Just the other day, I was kicked out from security, being on private property, et cetera. So now I had to find another place, which I did, and that was one of my previous videos. But yeah, you're always on the go. There's always a controversy or some type of conflict or bylaw or police involved.
I love your approach to keeping things positive, and the videos that I've watched, and I think I've watched them all by now, certainly show that. But I wonder in the past month, Greg, how you would describe your mental health today versus your mental health when you spent those first few nights at Thresholds.
I would say my mental health has improved as I'm getting used to the changes, of course. At first, it was a little bit stressful until I devised the plan that, hey, I'm going to go on the road and actually document this. And since I started the videos, my mental health has improved significantly from followers being so positive and having that extra time on my hands to communicate with other people and just get a lot of good feedback. So it's definitely improved.
One of my favorite videos that you posted of the ones that I've watched was you getting ready for work one day. And that meant being at, and you shared publicly, I'm going to be at this LCBO location. And so when you come by, make sure you say hi. And if you've got a little bit of extra money, you'd be more than happy to accept that gift. But what message would you like folks to hear from you? I got to watch that video. Hopefully others that went to that LCBO that day had watched it as well. But what message would you like folks to hear from you, the handsome homeless man?
Yeah, I actually remember that day. And 20 minutes after posting that video, I actually had followers arrive to bring me coffee and help me out. It was actually very positive and inspiring, actually. But what I would like to get out to other people in the public is to approach the homeless with more of a positive manner. As many people in the society are within 2 paychecks of becoming homeless themselves. So always be positive towards others, because at one point you might be in their shoes, right?
How are you planning to get to Montreal and Halifax?
Yeah, so I had an Ontario Works payment received on the 1st, and I have saved that, and I am saving contributions to put towards my fees to get there. I'm taking the train, so it's roughly about $300 or $400.
Out of curiosity, if you don't mind me asking, what's a day's work worth when you hang out at the LCBO at the Alpine Plaza, for a few hours or however many hours you're there? How much money might be gifted to you?
Okay, normally it depends on the day, of course, but on a typical Tuesday like today, I would probably generate around $70 to $80 within 3 or 4 hours. So it'd be enough to get through the day and through another day if I had to. On a Friday or Saturday, and being that I am a positive influence to the public and I try to be happy with everyone, I could generate up to $200 to $250 within a 6-hour day, roughly.
And what does that money do for you? What can you use it for?
Oh, for every type of gear I would need. I bought some backup battery banks because power is obviously an issue, and definitely food. But I cannot buy a lot of food at once because obviously I have nowhere to store it. But I do eat healthy daily. As you could see, I am quite a healthy person.
Greg, I wish you luck on your journeys through Montreal and Halifax. I appreciate you putting a handsome face on homelessness, and thanks for joining the show.
You're welcome, Mike.
Greg Cronier joins us. He is on Instagram. I'm sorry, I don't do the TikTok, but I think it's the same name. It was my friend and yours, actually, Trish Mumby, who contributes regularly to our Friday Four Roundtable, that brought Greg to my attention, and I was able to use the link that she sent me to TikTok, because I'm not there, I just thought, well, if he's on TikTok, he's posting reels there, he must be on Instagram too. And that's where you'll find Greg, the handsome homeless. He is a good-looking guy, and he is chronicling a day in the life, or at this point now, many days, a couple of weeks into this journey online. So if you want to know what it's like to be unhoused in Kitchener, follow the handsome homeless on Instagram, and maybe if and when Greg posts about where he's going to be on any particular day, you would find it within your heart of hearts to stop by that location with an extra toonie or maybe a cup of coffee, because it sounds like those things go an awfully long way. The handsome homeless on Instagram, documenting his life as somebody who's living in a tent in the city of Kitchener. We won't tell you where that tent is, though, because we don't want him to be moved on too quickly, right? This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. In case you weren't with us yesterday between noon and 1, I just wanted to let you know that I made good on the promise that I made to carry out a Hot Ones challenge on the show, live on the air. I had in studio with me some guests who provided the hot sauce, the wings, etc. I was wearing a jersey from the team that shall not be named. I promised to do that if our Farwell for Hire 50-50 raffle had reached more than $150,000. It ended at $186,000 plus. And so I did as I promised I would do yesterday afternoon.
Anyone who watches Hot Ones knows there's been one sauce consistently in the lineup since pretty much season 1 because of its infamy, and it's called The Bomb. It's number 8 in the lineup. It's the one that, sends most celebrities running for the hills, and this is the sauce that we're about to do. But because you're special, I decided to bring in the new number 8, the one without oleo resin, the one that's all natural and is a straight concoction of some of the world's hottest peppers, and that my friend Smokin' Ed made for this season of Hot Ones. So you're going to be one of the first people to be eating this sauce.
Jay Taylor, Morty's Pub. How am I doing compared to people that do a soupy sauce when they come into Morty's and order your hottest wings?
I think you're hanging in there. You're doing a great job, and I think more importantly, we're so happy to be here and be part of this, that you achieved your goal. You raised so much money in this community. And we're all admirers of you, and we look up to you and are blown away by what you do for our community. So thank you for that, Mike. And sorry your payback is this.
Oh. Jay, real quick. You're a connected guy. Oh my heavens. Am I getting any support from the studio audience, Jay?
This is the gift that keeps on giving, Mike.
Yeah,
Oh, come on.
You were doing a great job.
I can't. I got to get some sour cream here.
No, do it. I mean, to be quite honest, I got a little bit of a hiccup going as well.
That was only number 8?
That was number 8 in the lineup.
Oh, my God.
He's got one more?
We got one more to go.
Oh, no. Come on.
Or might be tapping out. But there is one more sauce.
Come on.
Oh.
Do it.
But yeah, this...
that hurts all the way. That hurts all the way.
It's straight peppers and straight pain, my friend.
There's nothing that could be worse. Is there something worse? That was unbelievable. I can't even... That hurts. That, honest to goodness, I suppose people like that. A good thing. That hurts like H-E double hockey sticks. I'm gonna put up my last one because I'm not gonna wimp out now.
Do it.
I did not wimp out. I did the last wing just before 1 yesterday afternoon. So I went through the entire Hot Ones challenge. I think you can hear in that audio that we just played that it was getting difficult. Words weren't exactly coming easily. There were certain words I really wanted to say that, thank goodness, I didn't say on the air, and we finished it off. But upon reflection, how lucky am I to have friends? And I do mean that as much as he put me through some torture yesterday. But this all came together because not only did I make the promise to you that I would do it if the jackpot got as high as it did, but I simply sent a text to my friend Chris Ronan, who's the founder of Ginger Goat Hot Sauces. I know many of you enjoy those hot sauces. They are a local innovation. And I just sent Chris a text, and he's like, absolutely. I've been waiting for you to ask. I didn't even have to ask Jay Taylor from Morty's. He heard that this was going to happen. He's like, I'm bringing the wings for you, Mike. And Jay also brought the sour cream. That did come in handy to try to calm the fire, extinguish the fire a little bit. And Orest Pollock from Nickelbrook Brewing stopped by and spent time with us in studio and brought some beverages, non-alcoholic. I did not drink on the air, I promise, but to help, again, mitigate some of those fiery effects from the Hot Ones challenge yesterday. How lucky am I to have support like that in the community, a text away, or sometimes they just reach out and offer, like my friend Mark Channer did. I came to work yesterday. There was an envelope from Channer's Menswear in Uptown Waterloo. It says, better late than never. And I opened the envelope, and there was Mark's traditional $1,200 donation to the Farwell for Hire fundraising campaign. I get a lot of credit for the money that gets raised, but none of it belongs to me. It all belongs to you and the effort that you put into helping us raise money for this important research into a cure for cystic fibrosis, because we want families navigating this terrible disease today to have better outcomes, and your continued support helps with that. So thank you. Eating some hot wings was the very least that I could do. An update is on the way from the 570 News Center. And then let's talk about changes to immigration in this country and how people who have followed all of the rules and done all of the right things are getting caught up in them. That's next on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I have been reading Prabnur Kaur's reports in the Waterloo Region Record for some time now. Always enjoyed her work. I hope you've been reading the stuff that has her byline attached to it as well. But it was a story late last week that really caught my attention, and I wanted to invite Prabnur onto the show to share that story with us. She was gracious enough to accept the invitation, and we welcome Prabnur Kaur to the show this morning. Prabnur, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for your kind words. I really appreciate those.
Well, thanks for your great work, and I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it, so you are most welcome. This latest story, though, really a first-person account of somebody who has followed all of the rules that were expected of you as a newcomer to our country and now kind of uncertain about the future. Can we start with what you have done to date? What was it, Prabhnur, that led you ultimately to writing for the Kitchener-Waterloo Record?
Well, I came to Canada in 2021 after studying journalism in India because I wanted to build a career as a journalist. And like many international students, I invested in education. I completed 2 years program, and then I started looking for work. And it wasn't easy. I applied for months before finally getting an opportunity with a newspaper, which was Black Press Media, but it was in northwestern BC. The city is called Terrace. So I just packed up and moved across the country. But when later I got an opportunity with the Record in Cambridge, I packed up again and drove across Canada to take that job. But throughout this time, I wouldn't say I was just building my career. I was also following the immigration pathway that Canada had encouraged international graduates to take, which was to study here, gain work experience, and if you qualify, apply for permanent residence. But the challenge that immigration is that immigration policies have changed significantly over the last few years. And today, after nearly 5 years in Canada and almost 3 years of Canadian work experience, my work permit is about to expire before I reach an important milestone that would increase my immigration score even further. And for the first time in 5 years, I don't know what my future looks like weeks or even days from now. So that's what led me to write that piece.
That immigration score that you talk about, Prabhnur, can you explain that a little more? Because it's a completely foreign concept to me.
Of course. Right. So any international graduate that lands in Canada, after they complete their work experience, they are eligible to apply for permanent residency. But that immigration, if they would get an invitation to be a permanent resident in the country or not, depends on what their immigration score is and if it makes the federal government's cutoff. That score used to be around 380 to 390 in 2021, which is when I came and I made plans to move to the country. Right now, I am sitting at 489, and my score would increase further to 500 on July the 20th. So I am way above what the score was when I started my immigration journey. But over the years, because of some of the bad apples, that score has increased prominently, and it now sits at around 517 to 520. So I'm lacking those 20 points, and I guess the goalpost kept changing, and I just couldn't keep up with it.
When the immigration minister, Mark Miller, started to talk about changes coming to the system, what was going through your mind as those conversations began in and around 2023?
In 2023, I was continuing to work. I believe I just got my work visa during that time, and even when those conversations started, I knew, because I was honest, and I knew that I'm going to follow every path that even comes forward ahead of these conversations. I was positive because despite those conversations, there were still steps taken to invite further international students into the country, and the Canadian government, though it was scaling back, it was continuing to invite students into the country. And I was maybe positive, thinking that my work, my honesty, and my integrity towards the system would be valued.
That point about not only the work, 5 years, my goodness, all the way out to British Columbia, back here to the region of Waterloo, etc., but your integrity and honesty, that strikes me, because I'm willing to bet, Prabnur, that there would have been ways that you could have, let's say, artificially increased your score so that you would have the necessary points?
Right. Definitely, Mike. There are ways, and they continue to exist in online groups, and I've heard some of those ways through my contacts as well. There were moments when people told me everybody does it, no one will know. They offered ways to get extra points through credentials I hadn't earned, but I couldn't do it. You would know, as a journalist, credibility is everything, and if I am asking public officials to be honest, I have to hold myself to the same standard. And I mean, would taking shortcuts have made my immigration journey easier? Maybe, but I don't think I would have been able to look at myself the same way afterward. I'd rather know whatever happens, I earned everything honestly.
So you are so very close to that goalpost, even though it's been moving all this time you've been working towards it. And yet you won't get to the latest goalpost before your work permit expires next week. My goodness. I mean, what happens now, Prabnur?
I have been advised to apply for a work permit extension. There are huge chances of it being refused, but immigration consultants have told me that it should buy me enough time to continue working. So once you apply for a work permit extension, if you're on an implied status, you can continue working until you hear back on a decision. And fingers crossed, I'm hoping I don't hear back on a decision until the 20th so I can continue working and reach the next CRS level.
You mentioned that those, online forums that you would be reading where everybody does this and there are some bad actors or some bad apples out there. You clearly have not been. You are that good apple that has followed all of these rules for all of these years. What is your perspective now, Prabnur, on our immigration system and the changes that have been brought in? I mean, are we catching too many good apples as we try to clean out the bad here?
I would say that there are many international students and foreign workers who have been honest and who have not gamed the system. It is only a few who have done so, and those that are honest are paying the price for those who have gamed the system. There are conversations going on. I would mention international students bring approximately $40 million to Canada's economy, and scaling back on international students would be a big hit to the economy. While I would also say that it is extremely important, and I do stand by it, to be honest with the system. But scaling back on immigration would definitely create a big ruckus to the system, for sure.
You're taking a big step by writing a story like this and being public about the situation, because as we know, immigration, the immigration file, let's say, federally, has been a lightning rod for controversy. What's the response been like since you wrote the piece?
It has been overall positive. In the piece, I wrote about the comments that I received on a previous story that I wrote that was on my Instagram. Instagram attracted lots of criticism, lots of negative comments, and as journalists, we get criticism all the time. That's a part of the job, and I'm okay with that. But those comments weren't saying that I wrote a bad story. They were telling me that I didn't belong here because of where I was born. And when you read hundreds of comments telling you to go home, it kind of just stays with you, and you carry it into work the next day. and you start wondering whether people see you as a reporter or just an immigrant. But at the same time, those comments are not the whole story. I've also heard from so many community members ever since the story went online, and they have been incredibly positive and encouraging me towards the next steps. And also there have been community members who have trusted me with their stories and treated me with kindness. And that is the Canada that I have experienced and I would like to experience going forward as well.
I'm glad that you have experienced that part of us. It's certainly our better side. And I truly hope that you get the chance to experience more of that. Have you given any thought to what if? What if you are unable to reach this new goalpost, and what happens then?
Well, if that doesn't happen, then I would have to pack my bags and leave and go back home to New Delhi. But I think people sometimes assume that it would be leaving the country itself that would be difficult. But for me, it would be leaving the relationships that I've built in, the newsroom that believed in me, the sources who answered my calls, the families who trusted me enough to tell some of the most important moments of their lives. And I've spent years building these relationships. So that is what is going to make this difficult. It's not just packing boxes again. I've done that previously. I can do it again. But it's potentially saying goodbye to a community that became home.
I certainly appreciate the work that you have done and continue to do. I saw your byline in the paper again this morning, so thank you for that. And thank you very much for making time for our show, Prabhnoor. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me, Mike. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Prabhnoor Kaur is a reporter with the Waterloo Region Record, and I'll just go on record as saying I hope she remains one. But a really interesting story about how sweeping changes to our immigration system can catch people who have done all the right things for all of these years. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Time for the local business spotlight on 570 News Radio.
And I am very pleased to be joined this morning by Jennifer from the House of Friendship. The CEO there at the House of Friendship is Jennifer Scott, who joins me in studio. Good morning. Thank you very much for being here.
Good morning. I'm so excited to be here.
You are still fairly new to this CEO's role. In fact, I was just talking during that break about running into your predecessor not too long ago. But for those who may not know yet, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Jennifer, and your connection to the House of Friendship?
Yes, I am newish to the role. It's about 7 months, so I'm going to keep saying new for at least a year. But I'm not new to community work and supporting people and supporting the community. That's always been something that is in me and in my heart. I grew up in a farm community, a Christian farm community, and, you know, the message of love thy neighbor, that was very much rang true. When I was in high school, I worked in long-term care, and I got to really truly see the impact that we can have on one another as people, and the just the importance of a relationship and community and things like that. So in that work, I really realized I have to have an impact in my work. I can't just sit at a desk and do things. I must have an impact. So, you know, I came to House of Friendship because of the amazing work that we do here. I came 8 years ago, but I think really what is so important is why I've stayed. And I've stayed because of number one, the amazing work, the incredible culture, the authentic leaders I got to work with, and really our internal commitment to one another of seeing each other grow and develop. And so, yeah, it's been 7 months, and it's been a wild, very exciting journey.
You previously served as the Housing Services Director at the House of Friendship. How did that experience shape the way you are now stepping into this role?
So it's about 3 years ago, I stepped into the Housing Services Director role, and I remember feeling overwhelmed. I thought, you know, this is big, this is hard. You're seeing folks experiencing homelessness just, you know, regularly in the community. You're seeing housing that is just unaffordable for a lot of people. And you're thinking, for me, I was thinking, how can I have an impact? How can I have an impact in this space? And really what gave me comfort was honing in on what House of Friendship does best and honing in on that health integrated support. And if we can help to address and support the root causes of homelessness, and then we can start to see a difference. I realize, we can't solve everything, but there's an incredible network of partners that are working together in the community, and together we can have an impact. So I really focused in on what we do best. And now stepping into this role, I've kind of taken that same philosophy and that same approach. And, there's the problems are, I've got a bigger scale and a bigger viewpoint now, and the problems are even bigger. But how do we approach the work in the same way? The health effects of the negative health effects of poverty, addiction. There's so many challenges in the community, and so same approach is what do we do best at House of Friendship, and how can we truly have an excellent impact on those we're serving, and then work with partners to just see positive impact throughout the community.
So as you embark on this next chapter, Jennifer, what is it that gives you hope, not only about the House of Friendship, but maybe even more broadly the region of Waterloo?
This is an incredible region. I truly, there are amazing people doing amazing work, and throughout the region, I'm seeing innovation. I'm seeing people trying to do things differently, trying to address the challenges that we're seeing in a different way with an innovative approach. And for House of Friendship, that's through Friendship Village. So Friendship Village is health integrated supportive housing that's being developed and built downtown Kitchener, just on Charles Street. In 2 phases, we will be building 170 units of supportive and affordable housing with the purpose of really supporting people well to exit homelessness. And when we do that with a health integrated approach, we believe that we're going to see really positive health impacts. So what I wanted to do today is invite the community into our capital campaign. It's launched just 2 weeks ago. We're hoping to raise $250,000, which would help to furnish 33 rooms within this building. So when someone is experiencing homelessness, they're often coming to housing with not much. So what we want to offer in this space is fully furnished units with bedding, dishes, cleaning supplies, and we're inviting the community to help support this. So if people go to our website, they can see how to support. We've got a fun shopping cart experience there where people can pick different items that they want at any price point that works for anyone. And we're really hoping to turn these units into homes so that people can really start their journey into housing in a positive way.
That is my kind of online shopping.
It is really good online shopping. Yes, yes.
I am going to point you in the direction of that website. It is houseoffriendship.org. Really easy, houseoffriendship.org. The CEO, the new CEO still of the House of Friendship is Jennifer Scott, who joins us in studio. Thank you for the work that you do, and thank you very much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
The local business spotlight, where your business comes first. 570 News Radio.
Let's do it without the music today. How about that? It is your Talkback Hour, where we open the phone lines real wide and give you the chance to have your say on the issues of the day, or the issue that you want to make the issue of the day. It is really that simple. You can do it by giving us a call at 519-570-2545, star 570, or 1-800-570-5715. We have had a lot of conversations today around the homelessness issue in our community. How about the handsome homeless? The guy who posts on Instagram under that handle, the handsome homeless, his experiences of being homeless in the city of Kitchener. He plans to take his experiences and his documenting of them east later this summer. First to Montreal, then to Halifax, and he's going to continue chronicling days in the life of someone who is living unsheltered. I find it fascinating. I love the fact that Greg Cronier, who was the gentleman who joined us, the handsome homeless, on Instagram, is taking such a positive approach to all of this. But nonetheless, that is something that has kind of been an undercurrent on our show today. Speaking of undercurrents, over these last many weeks, we've been talking about what I believe to be a lack of recreational facilities that support our youth who are interested in athletic pursuits. And I mean the real, legitimate Olympic-sized swimming pools, the hockey arenas, the basketball courts, the soccer pitches, you name it. I know we've got stuff. I know. I just think we're leaving out, particularly aquatics. We're leaving out track and field. And when we were talking about aquatics earlier today and the lack of swimming facilities, the right-sized pools for young athletes who swim, the suggestion was made that one of our challenges is that we have too many cooks in the kitchen, too many levels of local bureaucracy, where one municipality is reluctant to take on something on its own. So can you get other municipalities involved? Wait, then there's the region. And this just gets me thinking about, here's one of the other areas we lack, and that is baseball, particularly for our Canadian Baseball League team. Hello, Kitchener Panthers. I love me some Jack Couch Baseball Park, but come on with your coming on. Is this a baseball facility that meets the needs of a community growing to 1 million people? No, it ain't. No, it ain't. So how can we move in that direction? Will Kitchener do it on its own? Should Kitchener do it on its own? Is this something the region needs to be considering? And of course, the region has its own issues, right? How about that water problem? News just today, though, that the 7-month freeze on development is being lifted because the region at its media conference this morning says, we found 10 liters more water per second. 10. And then if you add that to the 20 liters more per second, that's going to come online late fall, early fall, thanks to the work at the Mannheim water treatment facility. We've got 30 liters more per second, which is going to be enough to support 5,400 homes in this community and up to 5,000 jobs. So the water problem, okay, it's not solved, but it's stable. Just a few of the things that are happening in and around the community right now and my thoughts on them. I'm always interested in hearing from you. Again, it's the most interactive radio program anywhere in this community. 519-570-2545. Star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. Let's make those other radio stations jealous and show them how we talk over here. Joe is first. Good afternoon, Joe. You're on Talkback.
Afternoon, Mike. I generally don't take an interest in these kind of topics, but it's ironic when I was listening to the story about Row Swim Club. My wife, who was born in Huntsville, she brought her family down with her ex and moved here permanently. Well, whatever permanent means, but she moved here because of the Row Swim Club and their kids, for the coaching, the training, and the organization and the competition. And her eldest son almost made the Olympics by about 100th of a second, but unfortunately took an injury just before qualifying for the Olympics. Otherwise, but he was a superstar, and their whole life revolved around the kids swimming. So I just found that interesting. When the Row Swim Club manager mentioned you'll attract people from out of town. Well, that's exactly what happened with my wife. And otherwise, we wouldn't have met each other had she not been exposed to that program and had to move her family from way up north in Huntsville down here to get proper training for swimming. I imagine the facilities at that time were probably adequate, but now it sounds like it's way overtaxed. So just reaffirming what the guy said about bringing people from out of town and investing in this community. Cheers, Mike.
Thanks, Joe. Good to hear from you. Let's not get carried away that Huntsville is way up north, okay? But your point is well taken. And the argument that was made by Andrew Moss, the general manager of the Region of Waterloo Swim Club, not as personal as Joe makes it, would totally understand, though, but the investments would be from sport tourism and the kinds of events that we could then host. And I know for certain, I know this, and I think you know this too, that we are very interested in this community in attracting large-scale sporting events. We've got the Ontario Summer Games starting at the end of the month, right through the August long weekend, right here in the region of Waterloo. Andrew Moss, the general manager of the Region of Waterloo Swim Club, when he was here in studio with us, mentioned that the Commonwealth Games are coming here for 2030. There's no reason we couldn't have facilities like this ready by that time. Shared the example of how they're doing it in Uxbridge, from shovels in the ground to an open facility inside a year. Somebody tell Cambridge about that. How about the multiplex? It's going to be about 12 years. 12 years in the making by the time it finally opens next year. If we don't get our heads out of our derrieres around here, let me tell you, I'll dig the damn hole myself if you want me to. But anyway, Joe just made me think of something else too, because I know he likes to spend some of his time up in the Bruce, and one of my favorite spots in the Bruce being Port Elgin. And that is where Bruce Power is located. That is where there are some large wind farms. One of the other things we talked about on the show today is the possibility of a wind farm in Wellesley Township. A renewable energy company has made the case. It's very preliminary. The report and the presentation was just made to Wellesley Township Council last week, but that doesn't mean we can't weigh in on our thoughts of wind turbines in the beautiful township of Wellesley. Could be a possibility in the future. What do you think of a local wind farm? Back to the phones here on Talkback. Preston Paul is Farwell's Force, member number 45. Hi, Paul.
How's it going, Mike?
Great, buddy. How's it going with you?
Pretty good. I noticed you had a really good 5 days off, so you charge your battery up, you're good to go.
Buddy, I have, that little thing that you twist on the doll's back, and then the doll just goes until the battery runs out. I'm ready. I'm recharged. Let's go. I'm the Energizer Bunny, pal.
Right on. Man, I got a few things. Yesterday, the hot sauce taster there, that was fantastic. I was laughing my head off over that, I'll tell you.
Yeah, you were laughing. I was feeling something different, pal.
Oh, I'm telling you, I could feel the pain you were going through, but I wouldn't put myself through that. But that girl maybe you had on there for the immigration, it's too bad that they don't grandfather something like that in, where she started in 2021. She should be allowed to continue on. She sounded like a very nice person, did everything right, and it's just a shame that she has to go through this and have this anxiety put on her. It's not right, Mike.
Preston Paul, that is a really good point you make. When she began the process, the target number was, I think she said 300, whatever the target number was, right? And she has now reached that and then some, but the goalposts keep changing. And now here she is. She's done all the right things. She's worked here. It's steady jobs for 5 years, et cetera. And because the goalposts changed, she's now short by like 20, 25 points. She's short, and she might end up going back to New Delhi because of it.
Yeah, that's not right.
I agree. Great point.
And I think those Kitchener Panthers, they should build a nice big wall out there in the outfield, stop those homers from going out, and call it the Blue Monster after the Rangers.
Not a bad idea, buddy. Not a bad idea.
Anyways, you have yourself a great day, Mike.
Thanks, Paul. You too. Great to hear from you today. When I hear Preston Paul, Farwell's Force, member number 45, I think of 45 records, right? 45 RPM. It makes me think of music. Your All Request Friday theme this week is saxophone songs. You got a favorite song that features the sax? Let us know for your All Request Friday. Mike at 570news.com is the email address you can use to send in that request. But Paul's point on grandfathering somebody in as a new Canadian, because here were the rules that existed. Here was the score you needed to reach when you first began the process of reaching it. What is wrong with that? Just if you're going to change the goalpost, change it from people that are starting the process that day. Instead of telling somebody you have to get 400 points, and then by the time you've reached your 400 points and exceeded them, you've made it 520 points. No, they should be grandfathered in at the rules they agreed to, that you agreed to let them in on all those years ago. I'm with you, Paul. Why don't we grandfather that in? I'm going to grandfather in one more call before our quick break. Tom is next on Talkback. Hello, Tom.
Hi, how are you, Mike?
I'm
Welcome
good.
Home.
Thank you. That's good to be here.
I'm just calling because the Toronto Raptors brought in Kawhi Leonard again. He didn't like it here after, when we won the championship. And now it's 7 years later or whatever. And half the time he spent over there in the Clippers was being injured.
Yeah, but he's coming off one of his best years, Tom. One of his best.
Yeah, but when he comes here, you got to change the whole system. Okay, from coaching and everything else, and playing, and new young kids adjusting. We gave a lot for him, and half the time he's going to be injured. This is his. It's too bad. We could have used him. We could have maybe won a few other titles after, but he didn't want to, and now. Half the time he was in the Clippers, he was injured. So I think we gave the future away. I don't understand the makeup of these guys at the top. Anyway, thanks, Mike.
All right, Tom. Thanks. Listen, I'm happy to engage in sports talk if you want to engage in some sports talk. And I'll tell you, I don't disagree. I think it was pretty clear that Kawhi was here for a minute. And even after winning the championship with the Raptors in 2019, he didn't exactly feel warm and fuzzy about Toronto or the Raptors organization. I can tell you why I think he feels warm and fuzzy about the Raptors organization now. Because they're going to pay him. And that might well be a mistake. I guess we'll see. But I do not disagree with you, Tom. Talkback continues. It's your daily hour to have your say on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Your Talkback Hour happens daily from noon until 1 because we really want you to have the chance to have your say. Maybe something that we talked about on the show caught your interest. You didn't get to share those thoughts earlier, or maybe you've gathered them now and would like to weigh in. Maybe there's something else you need us to know about. I promise you this. The people that hold the levers of power in this community are listening, and we are more than happy to have you tell them what you think about this thing, that thing, or even the other thing. That's what this radio station is all about. So we give you access to the platform every day on Talkback. And next up is Robert. Good afternoon, Robert.
Oh, good afternoon. This is loyal Farwell member number 308 here.
Love to hear another Farwell's Force member. We're getting stuff done, Robert. Good man. Good man.
I'm the guy from Ironbridge, which I think you're the only other guy that ever has heard of the place when I bring it up around here. So I think that's funny.
I love the Three Aces Chinese restaurant there in Ironbridge.
Yeah, it's still a place to go if I'm up there. About that spicy challenge you did yesterday, that was so painful to listen to. Like, I could really feel the pain when you were doing it, and my mouth started to feel like in pain and sympathy for you. So I went and got some chocolate ice cream and started eating that while I was listening.
Oh, wow. That's very nice of you, Robert. Thank you.
but the fellow said that you said, oh, how much time am I in for pain? He said, oh, a couple hours. So did it still hurt up till 2 o'clock, or were you fine after that, or how long did it take?
It's a very good question. And my friend Chris Ronan from Ginger Goat Hot Sauces did not lead me astray. It was probably 2:30, and it really did feel when I was eating the hottest of the wings. If I'm honest, the first 6 weren't terrible, if that's a ringing endorsement or not. It was the final 2 that really, like when you do this thing called the bomb, forget about it. It was incredibly hot, and I thought that my mouth was going to blister, but no, that part of it all subsided within an hour to an hour and a half.
Okay, so there wasn't any long-lasting effects.
None that I'm aware of, but give me time, Robert. It's only been 24 hours, you know?
I got a delicate constitution. If I was to eat spicy stuff like that, that wouldn't go well. I was trying to think about that. Like, I know you're doing it to raise money for your charity, which is awesome, and I was like, I was just thinking to myself, what would it cost for me to do something like that? I just can't picture doing that for any amount of money. There's no way.
Well, maybe next time I'll try an ice cream eating contest. How about that?
Maybe throw in some like honey garlic wings in the mix or something, not just all spicy, you know? It just sounded very painful on the radio anyway.
Well, we survived, and we're here to tell the tale. So I appreciate your support, though.
But it was good listening. It was a good event to do. So
I'm glad for that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
All right, Robert. Good to hear from you today, and I appreciate the support, even if that support was you eating chocolate ice cream while I was eating the hottest wings covered in the hottest sauce that I ever could have imagined yesterday on the show. Andre is next on Talkback. Good afternoon, Andre.
Good afternoon, Mike. Two things. When you did the dunk tank, did you wear your favorite shirt that we should not mention?
I did not. In fact, I tried to go the opposite direction, and I wore all Leafs stuff all the time. I wore my T-shirt that says "Just one before I die," meaning one Stanley Cup for the Leafs, and I wore my Maple Leaf car cleaning ball cap for my buddy Ron Downs in New Hamburg. I thought that would make the people in New Hamburg nicer to me, but I don't think they ever got to see what I was wearing because they dunked me every time.
Yeah, but you missed the occasion because you always say that the logo reminds you of a toilet seat.
That's true.
Go being flush.
Yeah, it should have been flushing that toilet seat logo. You're right. Good job.
Yeah. So I'd like to comment about something I heard earlier. I think it was Greg, the homeless.
Yeah, the handsome homeless man.
Yeah. I had to listen all of it because like when you hear handsome homeless, like, wow, what's going on with them? What's in his head, right? What makes him pursue? And because it's real, I really enjoyed the fact of what he said, especially rehabilitation, counseling, and all that stuff. And that's, we have a fantastic community for it all to help and support, but the story is true, and it's going to get worse. And I said it to you before, Mike, we do need some kind of a building that has different levels and for that rehabilitation so that hopefully we can get a little bit more normal. Have a great one, Mike.
Thanks, Andre. You too. Appreciate the call. I thought that Greg, who is online at The Handsome Homeless, that's the Instagram handle, or I suppose if you are on TikTok, you'll find him there too. But The Handsome Homeless, he tries to keep a positive attitude. He brought a positive attitude to the show. But if you follow The Handsome Homeless on Instagram, you'll see Greg on his daily experiences in our community as someone who is homeless. It's pretty interesting stuff, and it puts a face on it, a handsome face in this particular case. I'm just thinking on Robert a moment ago, who, as he was listening to me eat hot wings yesterday, he sympathized and ate some chocolate ice cream, which got me thinking about, maybe I should do an ice cream eating contest, or better yet, butter tarts sometime in the future. But I cannot eat butter tarts in the near future. And I'll remind you why as we continue the Talkback Hour and take more of your calls right after this on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. If you have got something to say, this is not only the place to say it, but the place to have it heard. I promise you that. I will listen attentively to whatever it is that is on your mind, the thought that you have to share. I suspect others will also take to heart the issue that you bring forward on the show during our daily Talkback Hour from noon until 1. 519-570-2545, star 570, 1-800-570-5715. I mentioned before the break, Robert had called Iron Bridge on the way up to Sault Ste. Marie. I've passed through it many times by motorcycle, the Three Aces Chinese restaurant. I've stopped there for lunch before. I just love that idea of Robert listening from afar, knowing this same small little town as you get more and more into Northern Ontario. And he said he was listening yesterday as I was eating the hot chicken wings, thanks to Ginger Goat hot sauce, and the promise that I made to you, if the Farwell for Hire jackpot in the 50-50 raffle got high enough, that's what I would do, and I would do it while wearing the jersey of the team that shall not be named. I followed through on the commitment. If you missed it on the radio, there is some video posted to our Facebook page today. Just check it out. Look up the Mike Farwell Show on Facebook. But when thinking about Robert eating some ice cream, sort of in sympathy with me on the show, it brought me back to butter tarts, which I love. Like, I love butter tarts so much, I would be tempted to listen to music about them.
Now, butter tarts, you just can't account for taste in butter tarts.
Oh, you can't account for taste in butter tarts. Just make sure you serve them without any of those failed grapes, a.k.a. raisins, okay? Because they have no place in butter tarts. But of course, there's a song, many songs about butter tarts. That particular song written by Shelley Posen out of Ottawa and performed by Paul Mills, a folk singer. Canadian content right there. Music, composer, and of course singing about the delicacy that is the butter tart. You may know, though, and this is also connected to Farwell for Hire and our efforts to raise funds for cystic fibrosis research, I am not allowed to eat butter tarts for a length of time determined by my friends, and again, I'll use this in air quote, friends at Hefner Lexus Toyota. You have to go back to June the 17th. I was at Hefner's for a staff barbecue, working the barbecue right there alongside Willie and John Hefner. And we served up some sausages. We served up some burgers. We had a good time. We raised some money for cystic fibrosis research. The Hefners made their usual donation of a couple $1,000s to our cystic fibrosis research campaign. And then Willie pulled me aside and said, listen, it's our 65th anniversary here at Hefner Lexus Toyota. 65 years of serving this community. If you can go 30 days, Willie said to me, without eating a butter tart, 30 days. I'm like, me? Not eat a butter tart for 30 days? Willie says, we'll give you another $6,500, $100 for every year that we've been in business in this fine community. A $6,500 donation. But I got to go 30 days without a butter tart. So from June the 17th, how many days do I have left to wait? I'll spin the old wheel of butter tarts here and find out how many more days do I wait.
8 days until Farwell can eat a butter tart.
8 more days until I can eat a butter tart. And if I can wait 8 more days, I will earn another $6,500 for cystic fibrosis research from Hefner Lexus Toyota. I'm hanging in there for another 8 days, Willie Hefner. That's a hard job. What was harder, eating hot wings yesterday or holding off on butter tarts? I'm not sure which. Walter is with us on Talkback. Good afternoon, Walter.
Good afternoon. Yes, I just wanted to congratulate you. I was glad I was listening when you were eating those wings. I could noticeably hear the change in your voice as you were speaking, as you were eating those wings yesterday, and I'm just glad I was able to get a chance to listen to that, because it was pretty funny. I was laughing my behind off, Mike.
It's funny you say that, Walter, because when I listened back this morning to parts of it from yesterday, I had not realized how much my voice changed. But you're right. By the end of the hour, I sounded a lot different.
Yes, you did, and it was funny. So now, 8 more days until you eat a butter tart, eh, Mike?
That's right.
Maybe somebody could come up with a butter tart hot sauce. Hey, would you eat that, Mike?
Would I eat that, Walter? Heck yeah, I would eat that.
Oh, okay, because you weren't too, convincing on eating the wings, but you never know. Maybe somebody will come up with one of them, but I'm heading back up to God's country here today, Mike, so I'll be gone for a few weeks. So I will talk to you again.
All right, Walter, thanks very much for the call. Good to hear from you, and I appreciate the support. I can't imagine a butter tart hot sauce being a bad hot sauce. Could it be bad? There was some pineapple in the Ginger Goat original hot sauce. And again, thinking of the spectrum of sauces I ate from beginning to end of the Hot Ones Challenge yesterday, I think the Ginger Goat Original came in at number 4, and the hints of pineapple were kind of nice. Again, if you can handle the afterburner effect that also comes with it. I wanted to share with you an email that I got from Annette. It actually came in last week, but I wanted to hang on to it because it speaks to a broader issue that I've been mulling over since the email and really probably even before. I think it's important to think about things like this. Well, I'm going to warn you, it might frustrate you a little bit, but Annette's email to mike@570news.com asks the following. Mike, I'm asking you because you most likely know the answer. I appreciate the support there, Annette. Who knows? What is the purpose of the boulevard on King Street East near Sports World? I'm hearing more construction is coming to this stretch of road this summer. What's the purpose of the upcoming construction? Perhaps the boulevard will hold the LRT track if we ever extend Kitchener to Cambridge, ? Let me know if you know. Thank you, as always, for keeping us all informed. That's from Annette, Farwell's Force member number 222. Annette, you are on the right track. The boulevard on King Street East. As for the construction out that way, I think that's all connected to the new on-ramp to the 401 West. I'll have to confirm that part, but I think that's what's going on towards the 401 West on-ramp. That's all reconfiguring that sort of interchange there. But the boulevard itself, we were curious about that some time ago. And this gets to the broader issue that might frustrate you a little bit. But the boulevard is absolutely there in preparation for the future, which will be those LRT tracks that you make reference to in your email. When or if we extend LRT from Kitchener to Cambridge, there will be tracks running down Sports World or King Street at Sports World, and they will be where that boulevard is today. Annette's email was timely, though, because I was in the area not too long ago, and as I was driving along, there was a maintenance crew on the boulevard with their big gasoline-powered weed whackers whacking the weeds on that boulevard. And it just made me think, or really it's like a center median, right? It's concrete that runs down the center of King Street past Sports World towards Chance Hell. And yes, I say hell on purpose because if you've ever driven it, you know that Chance Hell is the path into Preston, which, you know, down to Fountain Street, around Stay on King, past PH Milling, into Preston, which is the Hotel California of Waterloo Region, right? You can check in anytime you like, but you can never leave. Anyway, that concrete median was getting attention from a maintenance crew, which didn't appear to me to be a regional crew. It was contracted. Fine, I suppose. But it just got me to thinking about the thinking behind the median itself. And I want to know, like I really want to know if anybody in the course of planning this raised the issue. The concrete, I mean, imagine if we hadn't poured concrete for the median on King Street, just left it like a big, like on the expressway, for example, right? Just a big grassy division between the, what would those be? Eastbound and westbound lanes, whatever it is. Just what if it was just grass, dirt, a little bit of a divot, whatever you want to say, as opposed to concrete? Because A, pouring the concrete costs a whole hell of a lot more money, right? B, you poured the concrete now with the intention of putting train tracks into it later anyway. Aren't you going to have to then break up the concrete that you spent money on pouring to put the tracks into it? And now let's add to that the maintenance that is required. Listen, I remember how frustrated we were, and I might have been leading that charge with our boulevards in the region that were not being maintained very well, mowing last year. And I made the point, I would make it again, if the community doesn't look nice, it doesn't feel very nice to be in it. So we got a little more attention paid to the mowing, and some people would scoff and say it's just a minor issue. Yeah, well, drive around enough, and again, if it doesn't look nice, you're not going to feel nice in it. So I support the maintenance so it doesn't get overgrown with weeds and look rotten, but that's just another layer of expense. So you poured concrete where I'm not sure you needed to pour it right now. So you spent more up front for something that you're going to have to break up to put tracks into, and now you're paying more to maintain it. And I would love to know the aggregate cost of doing this in the way that we're doing it. And did anybody ask that when this was planned? Like, I get super curious about stuff like this because it's these little things, if you will, that add up to more and more of our tax money. And if you were doing this at your house, let's say you're talking about the concrete driveway. You're obviously weighing that against not doing a concrete driveway, maybe doing asphalt, maybe not doing a new driveway right now at all because finances are what finances are. But the longer term implications here, does anybody ask, or do they just say, you know what? This is the budget, because it's not your money to spend. The easiest money to spend is the money that you don't earn yourself. And tax revenue feels a lot like that to me. So I'm just curious. It's like the median's gift that keeps on giving here. We poured the concrete that we're going to have to break up for train tracks later. And now in the meantime, if those tracks come, we're spending the additional monies to maintain the aesthetic appeal of that concrete median. It's very interesting to me. And it's somewhat connected to this email I got just yesterday from Tracy, who writes to Mike at 570news.com. Whose idea was it to take out the Frederick Street Bridge, but also the Lancaster Street Bridge and the Wellington Road access at the same time, plus the other construction on surrounding side streets? How are people supposed to get to work? Tracy must live in the area around Victoria Street, Bruce Street, Frederick Street, River Road, Edna Street, Dumfries Avenue. Take your pick. I've heard from lots of people around there. It is a maze. It's a labyrinth to get through. And I don't know, Tracy, whose idea it was to do all of this at the same time, but I would submit to you that it was nobody's idea to do all of it at the same time. What we have here is a case of the left hand not talking to the right. And I remember this vividly from years ago. I wish I could remember the streets exactly, but I think the streets were Frederick and Victoria, so same general area. Frederick Street is a street managed by the city of Kitchener. Victoria Street is a regional road, and Kitchener had work to do on Frederick Street. The region decided to do work on Victoria Street at the same time. And even though the councillor in Kitchener, I think these were the two roads, but I promise you it happened. The councillor in Kitchener was very upset. He's like, can't you just stage your work with our work so you're not taking away two important arteries at the same time? And you know what the answer was? No. We have a regional government that does whatever the hell it wants, and we have municipal governments that do whatever the hell they want. And if they would only talk to one another, this is just another identifiable problem with our two-tier municipal government. So, Tracy, unfortunately, people are going to get to work however they can get to work. It's more of a pain in your derriere. And sadly, it's just because the region says, I have to do this work, and the cities say, I have to do that work, and they don't talk to one another. They make no effort, none, to coordinate projects. It is maddening, and just one more reason why we should have one tier of local government. Does anybody think about the long-term costs of concrete medians on King Street by Sports World? And does the left hand talk to the right? My answer to both of those hypothetical questions is no. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. got an email from Wellesley Township. The emailer wishes to remain anonymous. That's fair. We talked earlier today about the potential of Wellesley Township for a future wind farm. Now, I just want to remind you that this was a presentation by a renewable energy company brought to Wellesley Township Council just a week ago. Obviously, the renewable energy company sees a revenue opportunity here, and council has something to consider. Will there be economic spin-off benefits to the township? Absolutely. Will there be money earned by the landowners who grant permission to the company to build wind turbines on their land? Yes, and I hear it's rather lucrative, but there are a lot of steps to still be taken, a lot of boxes to still be checked, one of which will be, how does the community feel about having a wind farm within their borders? And this email to mike@570news.com suggests not very good. Hackbart Road is not the highest point where you can oversee all of Wellesley Township. Greenwood Hill Road is the most drivable. The old Dr. Bean Farm is the highest point in Wellesley Township, and I definitely do not want that in my backyard. Solar is the way to go. That, according to at least one Wellesley Township resident. I'm sure we will hear from more residents of Wellesley Township in the weeks and months ahead. Again, this is very early days, and the proposal has been made. The renewable energy company says, you know, Wellesley Township, you check all of these boxes. You would be a good fit for a wind farm. What do you think? There are regulations to be met provincially. There are boxes to be checked municipally, but we'll keep our eyes and ears on that moving forward. From Wellesley Township to Wilmot, I want you to remember what's coming up on Thursday. It's the annual barbecue in Petersburg at Bechtold Home Improvements, right there on Snyder's Road. No, he's on Snyder's. Notre Dame? Notre Dame. Sorry. Yeah, I got it right. Notre Dame. Sorry, Warren. But the Bechtold Barbecue raises money for childhood cancer research. It's been going on for years now, and they are hoping to raise $40,000 this year. I'm going to be heading out after the show on Thursday and joining Warren and crew for some barbecue and some fellowship. And I hope you'll make time during the day to stop by Bechtold Home Improvements, Notre Dame Drive in Petersburg, and support this annual barbecue for childhood cancer research. It's a signature event in our community. You get some good eats, and you raise money for a great cause. I can't say enough about the effort that Warren has put into that. So your lunch is covered on Thursday, okay? Even your dinner, if you want to do dinner there. But just don't brown bag it on Thursday. Go to the Childhood Cancer Research Barbecue in Petersburg. And that's all the time we've got today, but we get to do it all over again tomorrow. I'll be back at 9. I invite you to join me tomorrow morning at that time. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.